Yo, Goga! Good. Since Christians are annoying me today, and I wanted to use this picture anyways. Thanks for the likes, Goga. Yo, Coco! Going to shower first? Alright, man. Yo, Stage! What up? Deciding to do this one today. And then tomorrow I'm gonna do a belief, or hopefully tomorrow I can do belief. Or should I do the Christian LARPing one? Maybe I should share it with more people. Let me see here. I don't want to put her in that situation. No one's on right now that I would want to be in here, so I'm still gonna be. If no one shows up in an hour, I'm probably just gonna end it then. Actually, no, if no one shows up in 30 minutes, I'm probably just gonna restart with a new topic or something. Or I'll probably just end it in 30 minutes if no one shows up. Actually, no, not 30 minutes, 35 minutes. Clark Kent. I saw you, like, in Tiny's life? I'm out in public. That's fine. I get it. I feel like the first one can just be relatable for anybody, to be honest. Maybe it's too specific. That's the problem, it's too specific. Yeah, I should probably replace the word religion with belief. It's too specific. All about religion. Yeah, yeah. But the problem is, because of that, it's gonna make it harder for anyone to have a conversation. So, well, not harder, but like, yeah, except for the first one. Yeah, yeah. I'm probably gonna have to change that from religion to belief. Yeah, so that is less specific and a lot more general. Moral system? No. But like, I'm just going to replace the word religion with belief. Like, would you let people question your belief when you're what is it in your beliefs or belief system you feel is immoral? Ah, that doesn't make sense. Maybe I should just leave that one as religion. Everything else is about beliefs. Yeah, that would work. If everyone follows your beliefs, are you so? God damn it! Are you so sure that society would be what you wanted? Yeah, I'm gonna change some of that if I'm not too lazy. Welcome in. Alright. Three. Yeah, in like 40, not 40, fucking, 31, 30, well now 30. In 30 minutes, I'm probably gonna end it here if no one shows up. Yeah. Probably have a new topic, or... Maybe I should leave it as religion. It's fine if it's specific. It doesn't matter. It seems like it's mostly about coexistence. It is. It is. My atheist version is similar to that. It's mostly about coexistence. Hey, Nerdy Simp! That's actually really funny. This is like my first time running live on this account about religion. And then you show up. Like, usually on my own lives, I kind of just, what's the word? Do, like, stuff about art and stuff. This is, like, the first time I do religion on my own lives. I argue about religion on everyone else's. But that's actually hilarious. No, I don't want to co-host anybody. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it as religion. It's fine. Feel free to share your opinions in the chat if you can't or don't want to come up. For anyone that's actually not agreeing with me or to some extent. But atheistic Satanist dating a progressive Christian here. Ooh. That's new for me. I don't think I never heard anyone say that. But that's awesome.
Some things belong with a big screen. Watch YouTube on your TV.
Oh. Thanks for the likes, Nerdy. Thanks for the likes, Nerdy. Oh god, Reddit atheist is here. Thanks for the follow. Thank you, thank you.
You mentioned my name like if it was something horrible. Have you heard me speak?
I don't... I know I've seen you around. But I don't think I've ever heard you speak.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, this guy heard me speak. That's why he said, oh, God, Reddit atheist. No.
No. I recognize your name. I know you were around. Like, you know AR, right? Or...
Yes, I've been there plenty of times. For
Yeah.
Sigium, Sir,
Yeah.
Joshua Bowen. Yeah, I'm there I'm there all the time.
Right, yeah, that's probably where I've seen you. But I don't think I've ever heard you speak.
Yeah, I'm usually screaming at zealots, but
Me
usually,
too.
well, it says you're Christian now, right?
No. I'm a
No,
pan-entheist.
okay.
I'm a pan-entheist, but I'm not Christian.
Okay. well, I mean, there's. I'm not gonna pick on you.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not gonna pick on you tonight. At least not tonight. I'm not gonna pick on
Funny.
you.
I'm
Yeah, I
still,
picked on
I'm
the flat
so,
earther. Solid.
I'm
Yeah, I
still,
picked on
I'm
the flat
so.
earther. Solipsism.
Oh,
I picked on that guy today. Oh yeah,
I
you
hate
spoken with that flat
solipsism.
earther?
I hate solipsism.
I hate him too. Oh,
Jesus.
oh, Gilgamore. I know Gilgamore.
What the? I can't tell if that was a burp or like just some mechanical failing.
Well, Gilgamore's a friendly to me.
Yeah, he's a friendly too.
Oh, okay.
I'm an
Cash.
idealist now.
Oh
I've been
God.
convinced.
Okay, whatever.
It's the woo woo brain stuff, you know? The brain exists outside of the mind,
Ugh.
and you're just
I'm
experiencing it.
just. If you keep talking about realism, I'm gonna kick you. Um, Cash, can I get your age real quick?
I'm 44.
All right, cool. What do you think about the prompts?
Is there room for differing beliefs? Probably we'd have to have room for different beliefs, or we'd have even more war. So anyway, there's no differing beliefs about the real religion, which is capitalism anyway. So you can't argue against that. And communism is a bad word, as we know. Um, would you let
Ah,
Would you let people question your religion? I certainly would. I think that's very important, but other people are so stuck in their mindset. And any religion that has a pre planned thing that you just pick up and say, I'll be that religion, is going to have holes in it. And religions that are hundreds of years old, like we've evolved morally and ethically, so you're always going to have holes and stuff like that that can be questioned. If everyone follows your religion are so sure that society would be what you wanted, uh, yes, it would probably suit the most powerful in society, probably white heterosexual males in most religions or whatever the power that may be, and get women to pick up after us is probably what would end up, and any minority group as well.
So for the last one, you like agree with that, or are you just making a joke about the fact like if everyone?
No, it's not a joke. I'm being honest. If Catholic religion was allowed to if everybody in society believed in the Catholic religion, you'd have women at home minding 20 children and to be oppressed.
Oh, okay.
Catholic?
Oh, okay. So you're saying like if everyone follows your religion in a very white Catholic centered way, it would cause minorities to be oppressed. Is that what you're saying? And then that's a bad thing.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, it would
And you're saying
suit the
that's a
most.
bad thing, right?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, cool, cool. Okay.
No, I wouldn't
I'm just
necessarily say
lost in
that.
the sauce. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't necessarily say Catholics abide by that. Now, if I were to say like Pentecostals or Presbyterians, yeah, I would say that. But Catholics?
Yes,
I,
Catholics totally. They told them not to use condoms and to have big families, and that's what happened in Ireland anyway.
yeah, but Ireland is traditionally Orthodox Catholic,
Orthodox. What do you mean by that?
like very traditional old style Catholic, right
Like
way
Roman
teaching type
Catholic,
thing.
yes. Roman
Yeah.
Catholic, yeah. Why is there a new type of Catholic I'm unaware of?
Yeah, I mean, there's different congregations.
Okay,
Like you
but
have
anyway,
Roman
yeah.
Catholic, you have like Greek Catholic, you have like what's another one that I can think of? American Catholic, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
Traditional
but they all
Catholic.
operate from the Roman Catholic Church. I mean, by the Pope's Church in
Yeah,
America and
they all
Ireland.
operate
It's the exact same.
they all operate under the same papacy, but you know, there's different congregations that abide by like different practices. Each congregation has different standards. I guess it all depends on the bishop that's monitoring the area.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Like most of the Catholic churches that I know here are very progressive.
Yes, they're progressive, but if you give them full power and everyone in society believes in it and it's not been questioned at all, the places are progressive because they've been questioned and people questioned about homosexuality. Like the Catholic Church were completely against that until it started to be not fashionable anymore. So I'm just saying with challenge comes progression, perhaps. And as you see in the prompt there, it says, if everyone follows your religion, are you so sure society would be what you wanted? And give the Catholic Church had full power and control in society, and then they abused children and everything.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty big issue when it comes into like Catholicism as well.
But give
Trying to
anybody,
see what your primary congregation there in Ireland is. Um, let's see.
well, it's traditionally a Catholic country, but there's every year there's more and more disbelievers. I mean, it's a very progressive country, um, very liberal kind of. The church numbers are way down now. A lot of shit happened in Ireland, with abuse and
Yeah,
that.
I know
Yeah.
the history. Definitely terrible.
Okay, Cash, would you say Catholics would be the only problem, or just any religious fundamentalism?
I think any religion that oppresses another person, like, so if you have a religion that is stopping someone to fulfill their own development, or stopping someone going to work, or mutilating their body in some way, or preaching an ideology of fear where they say you're a sinner for nothing they have done. I think that oppresses people. So I kind of have a problem with that. I have no problem if someone believes in something that doesn't hurt other people. When you start believing things that start stopping people in their development, in their progression, or saying you can't, making up rules like you can't divorce, you can't do this, you can't do that, and all this judgment.
Yeah,
I
it's Roman
start to
Catholic.
Yeah, it's Roman Catholic. I'm aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah, they fall under the Latin Rite.
I'm gonna go look for ops.
Okay,
um, have a good
All
day.
right, Reddit.
Thank you, panel.
alright, see you, man. So, Cash, you're Catholic, or what are you?
I mean, I'm not anything really. I was brought up Catholic. I got communion confirmation like everyone did in Ireland, but I don't know. Like, I suppose you do want to believe in some God to some extent. So where I'm at is probably on that kind of spirit, for want of a better word, that's that spiritual line of thinking where it's kind of like maybe reality and presence, and reality has always been there. That, I mean, human beings are only in this universe about 300,000 years, like, but I don't know, maybe the universe is around 14 billion years old, something like that. So there was a lot of living going on before even humans were on the scene. We have this ego where we think we are center of the universe, and that we think, oh, a god could be in the image of ourselves, that he's some man up in the sky who's created the universe. Universe has been around a lot long. So what has been there throughout time is reality, or maybe some form throughout time is reality. or maybe some form of energy, like can consciousness, which we believe to be fundamental to in connection with God, but can consciousness exist outside a human being where perhaps it could, and the universe had been going on for 14 billion years prior to us arriving, yet we think consciousness only belongs to us. So there is a question of, and even before the Big Bang, before that, was there some form of reality? Was there a black mass or a vacuum just there? That is some form of reality there, still existing, or was there just nothingness? So there's something within that vibe or philosophy that links kind of with physics and science and spirituality and is outside the limits of our understanding. You see, God is a very loaded word and people put labels on it, but I'm using the word God to word and people put labels on it, but I'm using the word God to interpret some form of
Oh,
presence or some reality.
speaking of like the universe, did you guys know that there is a star that is older than the universe itself?
No?
Yeah, ironically
How would
enough,
that be
there is.
possible?
Huh?
How would that be possible?
Yeah, exactly. It's not, but it is, which is like a paradox in science. They don't understand how the fuck it's possible, but it's a
Wait, wouldn't
thing.
that prove? Wait, hold on. Wouldn't that prove like a cyclical model, or?
It could be that the universe may be older than we originally thought.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
probably
this
it.
star. But if that's the case, then the universe must be much older than we originally thought it was. And I mean much older because this star, the universe is supposed to be 13.8 billion years old. This star is dated at billion years old. This star is dated at 14.3 billion years old.
Hmm.
And the star, ironically enough, is named after a biblical character,
Oh no, who is it?
Methuselah. Methuselah was one of Noah's offsprings, I believe it was, and he lived to be 130 something years old.
Oh my god.
And 30 something years old.
Oh my god.
And do you believe in religion then?
No, I'm an atheist.
Oh,
Oh, according to this new paper, because of Methuselah, this new research is starting to put the universe at approximately 26.7 billion years old, double the age.
Wait, why did we
oh.
think? What was the original age, and why did we think it was that young?
The original age was 13.7, 13.8 billion years old. But now physicists are starting to come to an agreement that the universe may have actually been twice as old. So not 13.8, but 26.7 billion years old.
Okay, but why did we think it was 13.8?
Because 13.8 was the time traveled from the earlier solar system, well, not the early solar system, the earliest original point of the universe. That's the light that traveled, which was about 13.8 billion years.
Uh,
But due to redshift, that's been proven untrue.
I see.
So it's either or. This can possibly lead to two alternate scenarios. One, they say that the universe may be twice as old, which could be the case. Or two, that everything that existed prior to us knowing that it existed, the light has faded away to a point where we can no longer observe it, which means that everything that existed prior to that is gone, which means the universe could have been eternal and had multiple solar systems that are no longer there. Or two, the Big Bang may not have been a thing.
the Great Expansion may not have been a thing.
Like the origin of the Big Bang. Yeah, they're challenging the Big Bang right now as we speak.
Yo, that's crazy.
Why is it crazy?
Because like the Great Expansion has been like more than substantiated for the longest time, and then now it's getting flipped over.
I suppose that we always come to a point where uh, we thought something was one thing and then we realized it was something else.
I know
Like,
it's crazy.
like it would make perfect sense to believe that the world was flat because we kind of walk around it, but then as science progresses, we realize how the hell could it be round?
Hmm.
So maybe this is one of those
Let's
things.
see. Because if it's the case that this star is actually older than the universe itself, then how is it possible that this star dates much older than the cosmic microwave background radiation? So, according to this, the universe's expansion may be driven by transient temporal singularities, rapid invisible bursts of energy, rather than dark matter or dark energy, according to new research that challenges the widely accepted standard model of cosmology. The theory proposed by Doctor Richard Liu, a professor of physics at the University of Alabama in Huntsville, argues that the steps of these singularities offer a better explanation for the universe's origin than the idea of a single Big Bang. And if there's sudden bursts, then that can provide more insight towards there being multiple different changes in the universe, which means an infinite cause and effect.
So explain that to me in layman's terms. He's saying what?
It means that the universe is constantly repeating in burst patterns, meaning
That
that the
makes
light that we see from the furthest observable point, the universe that exists beyond that is gone because the light has already faded.
Okay,
And then there's constant bursts that keep occurring throughout the universe where point A begins, point B ends, and then it repeats itself constantly throughout the universe.
okay. So there's bursts all over the place. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
But
which kind of explains why Methuselah is there, and it's the oldest. It seems like it's older than the actual universe itself.
okay.
That's actually pretty crazy, though. I don't abide by this, but it's interesting nevertheless.
But isn't it mad that we're all like we're only on this planet for about 90 years or whatever, and we're like trying to work out these massive questions about the universe that's been here for ages, and someone will be, and all humans seem to question it, and then they come up with some sort of understanding, and some align more with science, and others tried the science is good enough for them, and they align more with the spiritual or godly sides of things. Like on a logical level, there is no God. Like logically, you would have to just go with physics and science and go, well,
Yeah,
there's
that
no
could be
one.
possible, vocal.
Oh, wait, I can run this. Hold on. I just have the perfect. What do you guys think?
I don't think any of this has actually even been peer reviewed.
He left. Damn it. That was the perfect segue for this one. But I need religious people or spiritual people in here to answer this question.
Real quick, I'm gonna hop down because I gotta go. My phone is at 6%, so I won't be on for like the next 20 minutes.
Alright, bet.
I'll be back on in a bit though.
Okay, okay. Probably end in 30 minutes if no one else comes back up. Thanks for the liking. I swear, none of my spicy prompts ever work. I think this is an misunderstanding of crunch expansion cycle. We only see so far back in the CPR. And literally only my account is in here. You know, I can send this to Alan if he's on. Hold on. Gnosis of a higher self is a type of divinity. Okay, great, but I'm more or less asking what even is divinity. Like, how would you define it? Being internal. Okay. But can evil be considered divine? And is it separate from objects? Hey, Autumn. Yes, it's divinely evil. Okay, cool. So the only thing left is objects. Well, there's the actual facts that don't care about morality. What do you mean? I don't see how you're connecting that. You seem to have a moral dilemma. I always have a moral dilemma with pretty much everything I do. No. I don't have a connection to morality and God, to be honest. I'm simply like I'm agreeing with you that evil can, but you've made a connection with your. Okay, whatever. No, I'm asking what is divinity and can evil be divine? But you're not understanding your position. Oh, okay. You don't even know what my position even is. For what? And second, I agree that evil can be divine. Now I'm asking, can objects be considered divine? So I just looked up the Methuselah star on Wikipedia. Oh, sweet. I thought you'd wanted information. Who doesn't? You're not giving me information. Everything can be considered divine because we're living inside of a divine being. Okay. So, the universe, or if God transcends the universe, would be divine, what would you like? Well, you answered the question, so I'm good now. The 14.5 billion year age is from 2013. Ugh. Great. Faulty information, as usual. And I have to do this all over again. Fuck. How would God have to transcend the universe? When is the universe? Yeah, I agree with that. The 12 billion year estimate is from 2022. Okay, hold on. What do you know about quantum mechanics, epigenetics? I know, well, I'm aware of quantum mechanics. I don't think anyone actually knows anything, even the ones who study them, about quantum mechanics, the more I talk about it, to be honest. And I don't just mean anyone who haphazardly studies it. I just don't think anyone who's actually an expert on quantum mechanics actually know what's going on half the time. And they'll say that to you, to your face too, by the way. I know enough to know that I probably wouldn't use it to support where I am positioned I have. If you're talking about quantum mechanics, that makes sense. I don't know shit about epigenetics. I don't even know what that means. Gene expression is regulated without altering the underlying DNA sequence. It explores mechanisms like DNA methylation and histone modification, which can turn genes quote-unquote on or quote-unquote off based on environmental influences. Interesting. Okay. Kinesiology? Don't have any... Okay, I reject sacred geometry. Have you ever heard of emotional scalar energy? Nope. Okay, that's only some. This sounds like a whole bunch of woo-woo. It is. The scalar energy thing is probably a debate in scientific circles, or at least that's what my co-pilot says. But it's nothing substantial. Kinesiology, it is a study of human movement, integrating principles from anatomy, biomechanics, physiology, and neuroscience to understand how the body functions. It has applications. Okay. There's also a holistic approach to kinesiology where practitioners use muscle to access imbalances. Okay. Everything he says is at least considered in science. The only thing that's woo about him is like spiritual gnosis, and sacred geometry. Divinity is a human construct, not based on anything observable. Fine. But what is it? When people say divinity, what do you think they mean? Hey, nerdy. Yeah, I'm probably gonna end it soon. Maybe give it 5 minutes or something. Go. Alright, maybe I'll push it. I don't know. Oh, interesting. Uh, Maranatha, can I get your age real quick?
33.
Alright, bet. What do you think about the prompt?
I think it's a good prompt. I think it's a really, well put together prompt. So I'll give you kudos for that.
Thank you. I tend to be careful with what I try to type. Well, I care about the concept. The grammar is often shit for some reason.
Yeah, but sometimes if the concept is meaningful enough, the grammar doesn't really matter.
True.
Hmm. So, how do you define divinity?
Well, that's kind of what I'm asking. It's how would people define it?
Okay. Well, I've contemplated this for quite some time, and I've arrived at agreeing with the Catholic position. If you don't mind me sharing,
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. So, within the Catholic position, divinity would be what is most good, most beautiful, and most true. How do you feel about that?
So that would basically say basically your answer to the second question is that evil can't be divine.
Evil cannot be divine, no.
I see.
Evil within the Catholic understanding, and I do agree with their position, is a perversion of what is most good, most true, and most beautiful.
Okay. And so objects cannot be divine at all?
Well, objects as what we create or what
What things are, like the sun, for example, or whatever.
yeah. So anything that is expressed through the natural order, that's outside of what our mind creates, does come from the divine. So an example of that, just so that I can clarify, when you look at the vastness of the ocean when you're in the beach, and that vastness captivates you, and it gives you a sense of awe, that would be you interacting with what is most beautiful of that natural phenomenon.
Okay. Wouldn't beauty be subjective?
So beauty can be subjective, but there has to be an objective standard in which your subjectivity is formed. So going back to, when you stare into the vastness of the ocean, or when you look at a beautiful painting from, one of the greatest artists of all time, and it just takes your breath away. There is something objective that you're interacting with, which then your subjectivity is formed under.
Okay, so the thing needs to be at least real enough for me to experience its beauty.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
hmm Otherwise, if it was coming from the purely subjective, you would pervert is a harsh word, but you would disorder that objective. I would say that objective standard that drew you into a space of awe. So, like for example, if there's a person that would stare into the vastness of the ocean and have their breath be taken away, but then or would stare at a painting from one of the greatest artists of all time and say, that would be a person that's operating purely from their subjectivity. Essentially, from the Catholic understanding, is letting yourself fall in love and not rejecting love. So, within the Catholic understanding, what's most good, most beautiful, and most true is the concept of love.
So, okay, how do you define truth?
Truth?
Yeah.
I would say, simply put, that which cannot be denied.
So, like, wouldn't that be so? Like, if I see a rock, the rock exists within my perceptions, and I cannot deny the existence of that rock.
You can deny the existence of that rock, but there are, like, if the rock were to hit you, you can't deny his existence any
Right.
longer.
Right. So the truth is still um, filtered within my subjectivity.
Yes.
Oh wow! I don't. You're the first Christian to I know of actually say that. To be honest.
Yeah, most Christians, they're very defensive, and they think that everything needs to operate objectively. That's why I do appreciate the Catholic understanding, because it doesn't reject subjectivity like.
Okay, I have like zero. Well, I can probably imagine other people would have some problems with that subjectivity sneaked in there, but I have zero problems with that one. Um, so
Awesome.
the only other word, uh, good. Um, well, like, how would you define that or express that?
Good.
Yeah.
So good is, from my understanding, and I'm still wrapping my mind around the Catholic understanding because it is a vast understanding that goes like 2,000 years, and you have different saints, struggling and talking about this. So good from the Catholic position is what the natural inclination that one has to order the world properly. So, for example, if you see a homeless person asking for money, asking for money, what is most good in that scenario is for you to help that person, even what would not be good, even if it's a little, like giving him $1, talking to him, making him laugh, something like that. That orders not only your reality of his reality, but that person's reality of their reality. Does that make sense?
Right. Like,
Because exactly, he feels like he has a friend, feels like he's not alone. Now,
okay,
what would not be good is you just ignoring the homeless person.
right. So, I okay. I guess I'm going down this direction.
Hello.
So hi, can
Oh,
actually, OG, can I get your age real quick?
27.
All right, perfect. Um, so I guess I'm going down this direction, even though I don't want to. Um, but you know how like, I'm not sure within your perspective or your tradition, LGBTQ is considered a sin, but like, if it were, and you have same-sex couples actually loving each other, is that not good?
mhm. So we would say it's disordered for two reasons. Because within the Catholic understanding, your interior life and your exterior life have been created for a purpose and meaning. So, in that purpose and meaning is for the procreation of a new being in the union that you share with a woman within the context of a family. This is the only reason why we can't say that a man and man or a woman and woman is inherently the same as what we know is inherently good, which is the coming together of a man and a woman within a context of a family for the procreation of the next generation.
Okay. Uh,
But we would say this, we would still say that we are to love those people and
mhm.
we are to still invite them into the church.
Right, right.
Mm.
But would you say that, like, hypothetically, and I just mean this hypothetically, what if people end up having same-sex attraction with the purpose of adopting a child when a child lost their parents?
Mhm.
Would that not be good, and would that not be building a family?
So they would say, so here's the thing. So it would be good. And this is why the Catholic position is not to reject people that have same sex attraction, but to clarify the Catholic position so that they know why we can't say that it is the same. Because, again, this is what the Catholic Church teaches. There is something unique that occurs when a man and a woman get together within the context of a family for the procreation of the next generation. There is, so, and this comes back to the understanding of love, right? If we agree that love is the most good, the most true, and the most beautiful, then we have to understand who can conceptualize that love. And it is both man and women. So the union of the two is the full concept of love in practice, if that
Okay,
makes sense.
yeah, okay. And I'm not claiming that same-sex couples are the same as like straight couples or whatever. But like couldn't a person who is adopted into a loving family that are same-sex will not be the most good, most beautiful, and also just as equally uh not equal in the same as the same, but like equally unique in building a community for that child.
Yeah, and the Catholic Church does not reject that.
Right.
It does see that obviously two men, two women, as long as they hold to the principles of love, are capable to mirror what occurs when a man and woman form this union. So the Catholic Church does not reject that. But as a Catholic, we are all called to die onto ourselves for what is most beautiful, most good, and most true. So we can say that that is good, but we must always orient ourselves to what is most good. And what is most good is for a man and a woman to come together within the context of a family for the procreation of the next generation. There is something inherently unique that God has instilled in both man and women for this union to occur.
Okay, hold on. I want to take a step back for a second. You said earlier you said that if someone's a home who is homeless, and then if you ignore them, that's bad. But doing any sort of good is
It's still
important.
good.
It's so good, right, right, right. But the thing is, if I give $10 to a homeless person, and if another person guides that homeless person towards a homeless shelter, which would be the most good, wouldn't I know you said you're not reject that, but if I were to take up the Catholic stance, shouldn't I be the one to bring them to a homeless shelter or a church or doesn't matter?
Yeah, yeah. But we all fall short. So the point of being, and this is another thing because I came from being atheist. What I like about the Catholic understanding when it comes to these kind of, conundrums is that it emphasizes that we all struggle with this. So that's really, I did appreciate that.
I
There,
assume you mean the recent Catholic understanding because the Catholic Church was vehemently opposed to homosexual marriage not that long ago.
yeah. So that's another thing that I appreciate within the Catholic Church is that it's not bound to one position forever. There is an objective standard, which then subjectivity takes place. So we can better form ourselves to that objectivity with more information that we gather, especially during, whatever period of time that the church exists in. That's why it constantly needs to evaluate how it's aligning itself with the objective standard which it holds founded the whole church.
Hey, host, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I understand you're going down a process with him, which I will not interfere in any way. I'm just curious when we'll be able to speak, the other panel.
Um, I think now, right now, I'm kind of I don't think I really have anything for um Marin right now. I actually need to process uh what he said. Um, so
Okay.
yeah, you can answer the prompt or join in the conversation if you want, OG.
All right. So going down the prompts, I'm gonna start from the bottom to top. Are transcendental experiences tapping into divinity? Um, I don't. I would like you to clarify that.
Uh, uh, Meditation, prayer, anything that gives a feeling of a sense of speaking to some spirituality or divine presence. It can be the Christian God, it can be Buddha, whatever.
So obviously depends on what you believe, but I
Well,
don't
well,
believe so. No.
okay. Yeah, because I'm just asking you, like, it's just asking the panel, um, like transcendental experience does it tap into some supernatural divine force? And if you don't believe in that, then you can just say no.
Well, it depends on how you define divinity. Whether
Well,
or not
yeah,
you're talking about like divinity, but well, it depends on your version of divinity. Like when you say taps into divinity, it means that like somehow you doing that act has enabled you to tap into divinity. But depending on what you believe, of course, that would be impossible.
yeah,
Lots of
yeah.
beliefs,
So
lots of
like,
spiritual beliefs. Oh, sorry.
so,
Um,
you're good. You're good. I don't mind some minor interruptions as long as you like actually understand what I'm saying. Um, so like, uh, what was I about to ask? Yeah, it's like how would you define divinity if you
all
have
right.
one?
Now, like I was saying, I wanted to start from the bottom to top. You said, "Can evil be divine?" I think that evil would have to be divine if we're talking about divinity, that means that like we're talking about like creation concepts, and if so, then good and evil would have been created, and that their source, right, it would be the only thing that would be powerful enough to create something as fundamental as good and evil. And so, in my mind, I think by default, evil would have to be. It would have to have either divinity or a sort of mirrored divinity for it to be as powerful and prevalent in our lives as it is.
I see.
And then just get to the main question: what is divinity? And I guess how to define divinity. Divinity is it's like it's the spirit, right? Needing like to basically like needing that it's when the spirit needs the like when it meets its sustenance, when it meets its desired meal, it's when it reaches its level of fulfillment. uh the best metaphor for it that I could think of is um it's like when you really need a scratch in between that wet swamp in your ass.
Ugh.
That was pretty
It's weird.
impressive how he kept that kept that going for so long, though. Oh
Um,
man.
Sage, you have a question for Marin?
I do. Um, what do you mean by like an objective standard? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like I don't understand how a standard could be objective.
Okay. Um, what do you think objectivity is? Just because there's plenty of routes that you can.
There are two definitions that I am aware of that are commonly used. One is stance independent. The other would be mind independent. And I'm not sure how a standard could meet either of those.
So stance independent would be outside of any given circumstance, correct?
No.
So what do you mean by stance independent?
Like if you have a
So what do you mean by stance independent?
like if you have a about something, at least that's what I would take it to mean. I could be wrong.
Okay. Well, yeah. So what do you take mind independent to be?
It would exist without a mind.
Okay. So it would exist without a mind?
Yes, if there were no minds, the standard would still exist, which does not make sense to me. Standards seem necessarily dependent upon minds and stances.
Okay. So let me throw one at you and let me see how you feel about it. Would you hold to this position that every human being is born with intrinsic human value and
I think
dignity?
intrinsic value is a thing.
Okay. So you don't think human beings have intrinsic human value?
I don't think intrinsic value is a thing, period. So no, I would not think that humans have intrinsic value.
Okay.
Intrinsic value.
Okay. So then why do we have to respect other humans? Wouldn't that respect always be conditional? And if that were the case,
I think all things are conditional.
right. So can one of those conditions then be power?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So if I don't have to respect individuals because they're individuals, and my respect only lends itself to the condition of the relationship that I'm in with the other person, wouldn't it be to my advantage for that condition to be power?
Sorry, I'm not tracking the question. I'm trying, but I'm a little distracted.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say, we exist within a society that believes that the individual has intrinsic value. It is not based on any conditions. This is why we're able to be as peaceful as we are.
Would you agree that a condition of that value is the person, or that the thing that is valuable is a person?
Absolutely.
So how is it unconditional?
Well, are you saying that we wouldn't define are you saying that defining the person as a person is a condition?
Yes, that would be a condition.
Okay. Isn't that self-evident though?
No, I don't think it's self-evident.
It's not self-evident that I am talking to another person of my kind?
No, it is not. For all you know, I could be AI.
Well, we do get into that problem with AI, right? That's one of the moral conundrums of AI. But I would say outside of technology, I think it's self-evident that I am having a conversation with someone
It could also be a hallucination if we don't want to go with technology.
Yeah, but it doesn't serve our reason to believe that we're in a, perpetual hallucinatory state, right? That doesn't benefit our reason at all. It would be unreasonable.
I'm just saying it's not self-evident.
Well, then what
What's
is
self-evident? What's self-evident is that you are having an experience that appears to look like you are talking to a person.
Okay. Well, we exist in a society where this is not a condition, because we have made it self-evident that, you and I exist. And in order for you and I to exist peacefully, we have to assume that each one of us has intrinsic value. This is what allows for our interaction.
I don't think that's necessary or even evident.
Well, yeah, no, but you're right about that. It's not necessary because we have a long history of it becoming unnecessary, and we know what that leads to.
Guys, I have something that we could probably all agree on.
Before you go on, real quickly, can I get your age?
Yeah, I'm 19,
Oh, what year?
2005.
All right, good.
Okay, sorry to cut you off though, but like we can all agree that this moment, we can call it like the existence, it's a perpetual happening of a moment, and it never, it's like an eternal kind of moment. And we think that time is like not like linear. I mean, we think time's linear, but we exist in our minds thinking in the past, thinking of the past in the present, thinking of the future in the present. There's only one moment. That's what we can all agree on. And we're all so caught and identified with our own minds, and our thinking actually thinks for itself, and then we identify with it, we become it. And if we don't do all that, then we kind of dissolve our sense of self, and you won't feel the universe, you'll become it, you'll be it, and it's just the path. Like, I just wanted to say that.
Do you have a savings account?
And I agree. Let's see, but that's exactly the right response. But I agree with what you're saying. But what I would add to that is that, this may be the path to some, but it's not the path to all. And because this is a fact, there must be pillars from the space that you're talking about to ground everyone else's path. And that's where I will argue that religion is necessary.
Whoa, religion is necessary. The whole reason religion was created was to hide that awareness is God.
No. It was to better order it, understanding that not everyone will follow this path.
Religion was, okay, well, I don't think both of us could actually say the real reason, because we weren't there, we don't know. But honestly, I feel like it was to hide the fact that awareness is God. And Jesus recognized that. He recognized that he's one with God, his oneness with God. He realized that his seeing, his awareness, that is like seeing his sense of self act out his own sense of self. He meditated. He went to Egypt. He did all these things, and like he realized his divinity. And like anybody can. That's like what enlightenment even is. Like, and then there's different things, and like it's so cool.
I know.
Jesus, the most famous Hindu on the earth, huh?
I don't know. Jesus, I
No,
don't know, but there's so
what
many. There's so many mystics. Like there's so like you can call them mystics, but even that's a title. Like identity, it's really a thing.
mystical experiences are
He has
necessary.
no idea what he's talking about.
No, he doesn't. He does have a good understanding of what he's talking about. But what he's
I
talking
agree with
about
Justin.
is
No,
what
he
you're.
has no idea what he's talking about. I don't know why you're affirming him, Aaron. You don't have to
I'm not.
affirm everything. You don't have to affirm everything everyone says, really.
No, he's coming from a genuine place, and within our tradition, the Christian tradition, there are a vast number of mystics. You know, the aesthetic order, the people that go into the desert and contemplate these things.
yeah,
You know,
Moses
There's a
is.
vast number of flat earthers
what I
too.
will
So what?
offer what I
Hey,
would
dude,
offer.
wait. Let me say something, please. Oh, that'd be so
He
funny.
just
Please. Let me
said Jesus is not God, and you're affirming it. I do not understand what's happening.
Oh wait, Jesus is not God. Jesus is not God. I agree. I agree. We're all God though. That's what it really
No,
is.
I'm saying that's what you're saying, and Maranatha is co-signing it,
I'm
and I'm
not
just
co-signing
confused.
it.
Though, but
Listen,
there's
Justin.
no
Listen,
no. Think
Justin.
about it.
Justin. Justin. He obviously is inclined to the mystical experience. Now, what he needs to understand is you can only ground that mysticism within the figure of Jesus Christ, within accepting that Jesus Christ
You see that?
is
I don't
what
agree with
gave
it.
birth to this mystical experience. And
I don't.
what I'm trying to say is you need to at least entertain the idea of this in order for you to grow in humility, because your current
Bro,
position is that this is the path that we should all take, and this is not everyone's path.
I agree. I don't think everybody should take this path. I think this is a stoic awareness path of realizing that awareness can't be aware of itself, but that it is constantly here, and you can rest in that awareness, and then that is what enlightenment is. That's what that nirvana is. It's what all of that bullshit is. All of those stupid labels. It's not real, but what's real is that awareness, and that's what God is. That God is your inner voice. You have an inner
Okay,
voice. It's that tree of knowledge, and you can pick of that good and
brother.
evil. Like
Brother,
Yeah, I
you
agree with
are
that.
that.
you have to humble yourself, because you have to understand that you still exist within time. Time is
Dude,
not a
time's not
complete
real,
that
bro.
is not a
What are you
complete
talking
creation,
about?
because you can watch things decay. There will come a time where
What
your
does that
body will
matter?
not be the same that it is today.
Dude, I could die happy. Is it you fear
Yeah,
death or
you can.
something?
That's not what I'm saying. Is humble yourself.
Why do
Humble
you fear?
yourself and understand that you are having an infinite experience within a finite body.
Yeah,
We're not this
very well
body,
said.
bro. We're not this body. You think you're the body? You think you're the mind,
The
even?
body is absolutely you. What are you talking about? When you experience
Wow.
suffering, it
No,
becomes
no.
very obvious that the body is you,
Okay,
brother.
can I walk you through?
Humble yourself.
Can I
Humble
walk,
yourself,
bro?
brother.
Listen, man. Like, I just don't talk to people like about this stuff, but I'm
Well,
not like
I'm
all
giving you
about
the
that.
benefit of the doubt. I'm understanding where you're coming from, but you
I think
also
you're
you
doing a
have
lot
to
of
understand the
assuming.
reality
You're doing a
of
lot.
of who you are, and to
Yeah,
throw
you're
away
either
your
going to
body.
deal with his rebellion, Maranatha. He's rebelling
Well, it
against
is
God. You're
rebellion,
either
but
going to have to deal with it on the rebellion side, or just be his friend.
we're Justin.
You're trying to be both,
We're all
and this is what's
rebellious.
making
We're
it so
all
difficult.
rebellious. We all rebel.
Right.
We
Yeah,
all
we are.
rebel.
We
But
we,
he's an
we do.
there's a difference between open rebellion
You guys
and
did hear him
rebellion.
earlier say that religion was developed in order to make people know that Jesus's path is not the right path, right?
Yeah, you may have said that, but
I'm
you may
sorry.
have misunderstood though.
I think religion really like made like a focus point on Jesus's story in the first place. I think a lot of it is metaphors, and it's good,
Okay,
and
okay.
there's mystics. The scripture is literally written by mystics.
So,
Like
so in that
I
case,
read scripture and I understand. You know what I mean? Like I'm not
so in
like
that case, what do you
I
base your morals by in terms of what's available to you right now? So you've got the laws and legislations. which dictate whether you commit a crime. You may get punished, you may not get punished, you may get away with it, you may not. That is the laws that we abide by. But separate from that, we both know that people get away with things that they may be guilty of or may not be guilty of. What is there otherwise of that teaches us to live a lifestyle or a way that is beneficial to everybody, that's separate from those laws and legislations where you don't get away with it? And that of religion holds some benefit, whether you believe in one religion or another. There is some truth to that. There has to be, because it's more within our moral compass, within our hearts. We feel it within ourselves.
Exactly.
We know that
Humble
injustice.
yourself, no? To justice.
Yeah, humble yourself. So we know within our hearts, a moral compass, that the injustice that we feel every time we read a news article where somebody's done something, or we suspect they've done something, they got away with it or not got away with it. But at the same time, we have empathy for those who've done those things, because we don't understand what motivated them to do it in the first place. But that understanding doesn't come from just laws of legislation and just science. It comes from something else.
Yeah, I can. We all have direct experience with God. Yes, all of us. Like without a doubt.
Like one person in this panel.
Who? Like how would you describe your experience? Because it's just literally getting to know yourself more. Like that's the best way to describe it. You feel more like within in the present moment. Like you.
So you think you're God?
I think we are all God.
You got to get out of that blasphemy, brother.
That's not blasphemy. Jesus was killed for that. You realize that, right? He was killed for that blasphemy, but it wasn't blasphemy.
I mean, this guy's just not even interested. I mean, I'm happy for you, bro. You're not. Are you handing us something that? There's something you want us to know? Like,
there is. Can I just leave you guys with one single thing? You guys can just like it. You know what I mean? Like, just let me leave you with one thing. It's like a stoic fucking thing. All right. You guys, you don't have to believe it. You don't have to just like, it's just what I'm leaving you guys with. It's that awareness, the awareness of your senses. You call that you, but it's actually not. It's just awareness, because awareness is primary. Everything is secondary to awareness. Your entire identity, your sense of self, is secondary to awareness. If you rest as the pure awareness that you truly are, not the conditioned human you think you are because of all the years of, being human, obviously, like, it's not something to, it's just, you know what I mean? So it's a big shift, but it's not gonna, I guess it might not make sense, but
So when you
it's
access
impossible to
this
conceive
awareness,
of a contradiction. We cannot conceive of a squared circle. It's impossible for us to conceive of it.
what does that have to do with
If you hand us a contradiction, you aren't you. I have no idea how to compute that.
Okay, I'll tell you, bro. I'll tell you. This is my best way.
No, I'm literally saying it's like I'm not saying it's worth you explaining. I'm saying it's impossible for you to explain.
I know.
It's impossible
I
for
agree.
you to tell me.
I'm gonna agree.
Describe to me what a square. There's no words that will help me understand what a square. There's no words that will help me understand what a squared circle is.
I agree.
No matter how many words you use,
I agree.
It will never come into my head.
Let me say this, please.
That's what you're doing. You're trying to put in my head a squared circle. It's a fool's.
That's not my intention.
It's a fool's errand.
Okay, I'm not trying to waste your time or nothing, okay? And I'm gonna leave like soon. It's just, you know how the thought creates the thinker? So the thinker has a sense of self, and that's what we call us, okay? If you get beyond that, if you get between the space before thought, even the like absence of the space of thought, like you become the universe. Like in meditation, you could try it.
But this is not the entirety of who you are, is what Justin is saying.
I know.
You exist as separate from this experience.
I am this experience.
No,
what do you
you're
mean?
not fully. What you're saying is so hurtful, man. Because
I am this experience.
You just need to accept Jesus. That's all you need to do.
But at the same time,
Jesus didn't want to
It's going to order that experience properly.
Jesus did not want to be worshipped. I will stand by that. Like, it's so obvious. You read scripture. Like, he did not.
You first have to come to the realization that anybody will tell you that doesn't follow this kind of belief.
Exactly. It's a belief.
Solely this experience.
Okay. Anyways, I don't want to convince you guys. I'm kind of done. I'm not.
No. Before you go.
Yeah. What's up?
What is it that you understand that maybe people that have a biased perspective of a faith that is different to that of yourself or anybody's faith
Okay,
that
I can say
leads you
that.
to understand this perspective?
I understand.
Purely out of curiosity more than anything else. I'm just curious to see what made you come to this
By the
conclusion.
By the way, I really appreciate that you asked me this. Also, like about the compassion and the empathy, I've become an awakened empath. Like I know that sounds bullshit, but like I literally like out of nowhere, I've had so many cool experiences.
Ugh.
Anyways, my bad. What was it? You wanted me to tell you the awareness.
Is that for example when you believe in Christianity or the Bible or any faith for that matter?
I don't believe in anything.
No, that's fine. But what I'm trying to say is comparing that to, say, for example, your perspective,
Yeah.
somebody who has one single-minded perspective, because we may feel it's truthful within our minds and hearts, but at the same time, we shouldn't be ignorant to consider other possible perspectives.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
my curiosity is that what leads you to think and believe what you believe, not from a judgmental perspective
I
or
understand.
to try and argue
I
with you, but
completely understand where you're coming from. Yeah.
but just to understand what led you to that, and what is it that you abide by? What does that originate from, and what is it that you? How do you think that helps anybody in terms of going forward as humankind? If you was to portray that going forward, if you had the power to do so.
All right. Well, what you said at the end, but damn,
I mean, that was a good question.
that was a good question, but now I'm lost trying to think of what I was thinking about.
Well, just think about it, brother. Just mull it over. Just understand that you're still young and you have a lot to learn.
I'm
Yeah, he can't see it now. He's on the high.
He's on
He's
the
on the
high.
high of it right now. He's not going to even receive anything we have to give to him.
It's not like that. You guys misunderstand me.
You're not
No,
even you're not even curious about our perspectives. You only came to give because you're filled up. You're filled up
but
with
this,
whatever it is you want to give us. So
Dude.
but at the same time,
until you're on the
I'm empty
until
but
it
full.
fails you, you will not
Look,
be
and
interested.
Justin, that's a great insight because this is exactly the problem. You're going to be interacting with people like this. And this is very dangerous, man, because
It's
you
not
are no
dangerous because I
better.
have no
Hold on. Let me
beliefs.
finish, brother. Let me
You don't
finish. Let me finish.
understand.
Let me just say
Not
something,
real.
brother. Let me just say something.
What? Go ahead.
You
Go
are
ahead.
no better than anyone else.
I understand. We're all equal, of course.
Ultimately.
God made us all equal. We are all equal.
Okay, so understand that you, like Justin said, you came in here only wanting to give, not receive.
Okay,
And this
I'm
is
open to receiving.
hold on.
I never
This is
said screw your view or something.
this is objectively a flaw in your belief.
There's no
And
belief.
you need to reconcile with it if you're honest.
What is a
about your
belief? Ask me
Objectively,
what is a belief?
but this is why I'm so curious to understand your perspective, because I'm not trying to say that I have my belief. I do have my own belief, but at the same time, I want to know why you think that there is a different perspective that is different from everything, but at the same time the same, because you have some understanding from your perspective that is you're so strongly believing in it, and you're so strongly abiding your philosophies and mindset by that I'm just curious to know what that is, because how does one human being come to that conclusion whilst also recognizing all the information that's presented to us in our time on earth, which is the scriptures and other religions and also science, and we come to this conclusion for a reason. I want to know what your reason is.
It's just everything, like the disillusion of identity. Like it's just the past. It's just disillusion of identity. You get there eventually. I don't know how to. I've been on this shit for like 2 years.
So is it a feed? Is it a feeding, or is it a belief from something you read that you can prove, or is it nothing that you can prove? It's something you feel, within yourself.
Let me explain. There's a difference between a belief and a direct knowing. A direct knowing is gained through direct experience, and a belief is you have faith in it. You believe it. You don't actually know. Like you know your mother, you know your father. You don't have to believe in them. So when I say that I don't believe that I have to, what's it called, pray to Jesus, it's because I have to believe that in order to actually do that act. It's not something that, I mean, unless you know you receive more, but it's your own, it's reflecting, if that makes sense. So nobody's beliefs are like wrong. Everyone's beliefs are fine, but that's what they are, beliefs. But
and here comes the major problem. You just said it. And let me explain.
Let me explain.
Hold on. But if nothing is wrong, If nothing is wrong, think about what you're saying.
It's not inherently wrong.
Think
It's
about
not.
what
It's not
you're
wrong.
saying.
It's actually not wrong.
There
It's not.
is a wrong.
No, there's no good and evil. There's no good and bad, bro. There's no wrong or right.
Yeah, good luck with that, man. Good
There's
luck with
not.
that,
There's
bro.
not. There's
Like,
that's
no,
what.
but Justin,
Good
like
luck
you
with
said,
that.
he's on the high. He's on the high.
Yeah,
There's no,
it's the
But
there's
dumbest
no
stuff,
talking
man.
to him.
He doesn't realize he lives in a world where like Hinduism exists,
dude,
where it's
Hinduism explains Kundalini everything, bro. What are you talking about?
I thought
yeah.
he was only going
So
to tell us one more thing like 5 minutes ago.
I
But if
know.
there's no good and bad, or no right and wrong, how do you get to that conclusion though? Just out of curiosity, because I'm not trying
Do you
to
think
say that.
Hinduism rejects good or bad?
I think there's only
Because
awareness.
it doesn't. It's
There's
actually
only.
the
Do
most
you? Do
ruthless.
you?
It's one of the most
Wait.
ruthless. It's the most one of the most
Listen.
ruthlessly
Let me
moral. It,
explain.
it, it
You guys
accomplishes
will
more.
understand if I explain.
Hinduism accomplishes moral closure in one of the most ruthless ways imaginable.
It is true.
Hinduism is
It
a
does.
justice-based faith.
And that's
If
not to
you
talk
think that
bad
there's
about.
not good or bad, you do not know the world of hurt that you're about to face in your life. Just
Yeah,
good luck, bro.
you're setting yourself up for failure.
So you believe in karma, huh?
I know what you're talking about is what I'm saying. I know it better than you do, apparently.
We don't believe in karma.
You
We
know
believe in you
something
reap what
better
you
than us.
sow.
Subjective idealism is all you've been talking about, and
We
it
don't
is
know.
not. It's not all that it's cracked up to be.
Okay. Okay. Can we?
You'll just have to
Okay.
find that
I
out
read
for
your.
yourself. I actually have
Can
a
we?
22-year-old daughter, and I can't tell her nothing either. So I get it, man. I get it. What
Can
it's
we
like to be
You
agree?
look pretty good for your age, Justin.
Can we agree
appreciate it.
that?
Appreciate it.
Can we agree that awareness is actually primary, and then secondary comes everything else, senses, sense of self? Can we agree on
No,
that?
no.
Why? Isn't that true though?
You're not
I think
interested in why. I have an exact answer for you. I could actually rip your whole world apart. But
Please,
you
I
please,
think
but you're not
logically,
but
please.
you're not
hold on,
interested.
hold
You're
on.
not
No,
interested.
please.
I'll
I'm
give you
You're
a
not in a
better
place to
scenario.
hear it. You're not in a
I'm
place to hear it, bro.
I'm open. Please, I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay, what
Thank you.
defines you, brother, is not what you are aware of, but
I
on
know.
the merit of the relationships that you form.
The
Your
relationship.
relationships. Let me just
Like,
finish here. Your
acting out of love.
relationships define you, brother. Your community defines you.
My parents, yeah. Like,
Okay,
Your
so
relationship, your
who
relationships and
you
your
are.
community can define you. They don't necessarily define you.
Well, they must define you. Otherwise, so if, for example, we would all agree that a broken home is not a good thing for any child to grow up in, right?
I agree.
Why is this inherently true? Because
No,
we
I would
know
not
that
agree
the
with that.
communion of a family is what properly defines the child within said family.
A broken home is better to grow up than an abusive home.
Oh no,
So
of
no, I
course,
would not
of
agree that
course,
it's
no,
always
of
better.
course, of course. But what I'm saying is the ideal is for the family to be in a loving relationship within the context of a family
Who wouldn't
for
agree?
the rearing of focusing, putting their awareness on the rearing of that child. We know that this is inherently true.
That of course. Why wouldn't that? That's like
Well,
just
well,
that's just
well,
being
well,
good, right?
well, but
That's just,
listen. If you know that this is inherently true, then
uh-huh.
what defines you are your relationships and the interactions you have, especially starting with the first interactions anyone will have, and that's with their parents.
like our conditioning and stuff.
Not our conditioning, because this is past our conditioning. Because then we take that structure and we give it to the Most High, we give it to Jesus, and that is what properly orders the whole entire structure. This is how we keep the family from being bad, from broken families, from keeping everyone away from each other.
Wait, what do you mean?
When we give our understanding what's inherently true, that relationships define us, then we give it to the Most High, which is our concept of God.
Yeah, but it's concept though. You don't actually know what it is. Like there's a direct knowing and then there's a belief.
in addition to what you said there,
Jesus Christ, brother.
Have you ever met him?
Jesus Christ. That is who it is.
Is it? Have you talked to him? Like, what do you mean?
I felt him, and like you said, I know.
Would you agree?
That
Would you agree that what you feel is the Holy Spirit? Would you agree with me on that?
100%.
Okay, I feel that too. Like I used to do that so much whenever I meditate, like years ago.
Well, here's the difference. You're rejecting Christ.
No. that's where you're this is the thing. Christ to you is God. To me, Christ is not God, but God is God. And I know what God is. It's awareness. And then but think about it. You're aware of Jesus through your
God
awareness.
is God is not a good definition, brother. You are making yourself God in that.
Dude, you have a relationship with
The
God.
figure of
You are one
Christ,
with God.
the figure of Christ is what allows us to have a relationship with God. This is
Bro,
what's different from this
the
is what's
figure of
different
Christ
between
is,
Christianity and what you currently believe in.
bro, it's you. But what do you mean? You can't tell it's you?
It's
And
Christ, bro. It's
and I don't
Christ.
believe. I don't have to believe. You actually do have a belief. I'm not coming at you, but that's a belief. I don't have a belief on this. Like it's just awareness. That's direct knowing. If you are aware of it, awareness can't become aware of itself, but you can unravel and
So would you
release.
say? So would you say at the same time, from what you're saying there, is that like, for example, every major religion in the world, to use those as an example, would you say it's fair to say that every single person from each different religion primarily will believe deep down in their minds and hearts and will abide their lifestyle by that specific religion?
Oh, I have something to say. Yes, yeah. So I think religion makes them look outside of themselves. But if you do have a relationship with Jesus, then that means that it's relationship with yourself because that's your awareness. And then you actually, if you have gratitude and you pray and like you can do all these things and you actually do feel Holy Spirit. Like if you have like it's real. I'm not gonna like hinge on your belief. It's real. But what you don't understand, this is what I'm trying to get at, is that it all arises within our awareness, which means awareness is the oneness that is
How are we
the
doing?
field itself. Does that make
So
sense?
would you say that if you didn't believe in a specific faith, but you still had the morality and the mindset and the hope and desire to follow the truth of righteousness from the faith in which you chose to believe in, or that you were subjected to in your own current country, or your own belief system that you adopted into that first place in the first instance, that you might be wrong because
I'm
that's
just,
what
I'm just a
got
truth
you into
seeker.
that. No, no, just hear me out. So
I finished.
that's what got you into that faith. But let's say, for example, you think outside the box and you look at all the different faiths and you say to yourself, I still choose to believe in this one because it makes the most sense to me. I feel something about this one that resonates within my heart more so than the others. But at the same time, I recognize that it applies in the same fashion in reverse to those who believe the opposite of
Yes, and
me in a
I
different
did say
respectable
that.
faith.
I didn't discount that at all. Yeah, of
No, I
course.
know you didn't. So I
Yeah,
suppose
I agree.
that also coincides with your argument, and in a sense, I agree with that because we don't know for certain. We only know what we believe in and what feels right to us within our heart, which we can call the Holy Spirit or anything.
Well, we can't agree on fundamentals. Like, for example, we are in this moment together, right? There's only one moment. We can agree on that.
Yeah,
You just contradicted yourself.
How? Please
You
ask me.
just said you
I
just
don't.
said we. We constitutes a set of individuals.
You said we.
You said we.
Okay, I said we.
You said we are sharing this moment. But
Yes.
we is defined by a set of individuals.
Okay. Well, there's individuals because we're in duality, and there's a bunch of particles that
No,
exist
you
as
can't
all
have
consciousness and
that's
souls that would look
that's
like
called a
us.
contradiction. You cannot have both a non-individuality and individuality at the same time.
but we can also agree upon the fact
No,
that
you can because
but at
No,
the same time we can also agree upon the motivation. What is the motivation of God, right? I think we can
it's
discuss
love.
this.
Love.
Yeah, love. Yeah. So the motivation of God is love from our perspective, which is what
Unconditional.
yeah, this is why we believe in God, right? Because
Yeah.
we feel it within our hearts, not because out of fear. Yeah, there is fear there to some degree, but primarily it's motivated by love. So, and I look at it like this, right? And again, this is subjective,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's looking at all different religions and everything that exists in front of my eyes. If I was sat at a table and actually work this out, 3,000 religions and science and everything else, I had to sit there and work out which one is the right one, or maybe it's like a maze with 50 different entrances where the
No,
heart
they're
of
all
the
the
maze
right
is
one.
the focus point.
They're all the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, we can agree that it's God's problem. Our problem is to figure out what makes sense to us and what we can do within that.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, we can discuss and we can share our experiences and why we believe in one thing or the other and why we think it benefits ourselves and our communities.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, one of the massive benefits of religion, by the way, I think we can all agree upon is the community. Because when
Oh
Amen.
you
yes, I do agree.
Amen.
That's the
Amen.
community.
so when you go to that community and you have that inherent desire to follow something or believe in something more than yourself, that's the first step. And then you go to that community, which could be any faith, and then you find that community and that feels right to you. And then if you get to a point where you think, hang on a second, that did feel right, but then now they're talking about this and that, but that doesn't feel right to my heart. That's in contradiction to what my heart's telling me. Then you know you're not on the right path, so then you move on.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord.
Well, can I say
Open
something
the
that'll like
eyes
make
of
you
my
guys like think I'm
heart.
even weirder? That'd be
I
fun.
wanna see you.
You have good singing though.
I was going to say, our
Now.
God
Hey,
is an
but
awesome
listen,
God, he
brother,
reigns.
this goes back to what I originally said, that religion doesn't take away from this experience. It orders it, recognizing the individuality of everyone that exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's cool. And everybody that exists is actually you too. It's pretty cool.
But that's the beauty, though.
Just look
At
into
the end of the
Christ,
Why are
day,
man.
we listening
Just
to this
just
garbage?
look into Christ, man.
but
Look
do you really
into
think that
Christ.
most of us here
Yeah, I'm
right
ready.
now,
It's pretty tough, man.
but do you really think that
Also,
most of us
guys,
here is not going to be
you
sat
know
there at
what's
the
so
table
cool?
in the
And we can tell
afterlife?
it's garbage because Justin and I agree on almost nothing.
It's all good. You
Good
guys,
morning, guys.
do you guys see the difference between me and you guys though? Can I say one thing? I haven't labeled or judged anything, and you guys are all coming from that. So I think that says a lot. Says a
Yeah,
lot.
that sounds like a
I'm not
judgment to
judging. I'm
me.
not. Well, I'm not judging you, brother,
Well,
because I
that's
know where
just
you're.
that's an observation. It's not.
Well, I know where you're coming from. I know where you're coming from because it's been a journey for me, man, to finally
Yeah,
submit
and I
to
respect you
Christ.
guys. I really do respect
So
you guys, and you guys are like
yeah.
treating me like that.
I judge
But
you.
I resonate with you. I resonate with you too, bro. I'm not being biased or separate from your perspective. I'm more curious about what makes us different because I feel like we're similar, a lot of us in terms of our objective.
It doesn't matter our beliefs. We're all just here on the earth.
I judge you.
together,
I'm just not. I just feel sorry for the day your balloon pops, brother. Good luck.
What's the balloon? What could pop? Like I don't have beliefs. You know what I mean? Like that's
that
not.
for example, the balloon
Do
that's
you
going to
believe that you
pop.
don't have beliefs?
No, that's a thought. That's a thought. That's not
Hold
a
on,
belief.
brother. The
That's a
problem with your belief
Do
system,
you
and
not have propositional attitudes?
okay, so your belief, brother, does not solve the problem of suffering. And that is a
It does. I
problem
can
that
tell you.
every
I can tell you that.
philosophy, every religion,
No,
every
I can
way
tell
of
you how
being
to
needs
solve
to
that.
struggle with ultimately because it is a fundamental reality.
No, I know the who's the one that struggles.
Can I ask
Um,
a question other than
It looks like
everyone,
you're struggling to make
everyone,
sense.
Are you
everyone.
talking about Sisyphus? Wait, hold on. I am. Are you talking about Sisyphus?
The I am that I am.
Oh,
That
Buddha?
bullshit. Okay. Listen. So it's there's I
Almost.
am, and then there's I am. Therefore, I think.
I
Therefore,
think therefore I am. That's fucking Descartes.
okay. But that one. There's a thing right there. If you just because you think, therefore you are, that doesn't that means you're an identity, and that's recursive. So you'll be playing in that loop, and there's actually awareness beyond that. And then it's
That
the
doesn't
awareness
take away the problem of suffering. There's still war, there's still
oh
violence, there's still passions that lead us astray. There's still things
that's
that
because
we
of ego.
desire. Hold
That's
on,
because
brother,
of ego. You
brother.
can't do
This is
anything
the
about that.
problem. This is the
No.
problem.
You
There's
can't
still
do
things that we desire that you, I know, desire that are out of alignment
there's
with everything that you're preaching.
no
You have to
desire.
take into consideration your
Desire
own
nothing.
weakness. Take into consideration humble yourself to know that you are weak because
There's
you
no
are.
weakness, bro. You think you're weak. You think you're limited, bro. Why do you think
No,
that?
just recursion. Even recursion requires a continuous singular identity state. That's what
Okay.
recursion is.
Okay, exactly. When you get out of recursion, then you just become like a paint shit of thoughts. But you can just not be those thoughts. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's really cool. You
Okay,
can
thanks
just
for sharing,
Yeah.
man.
you can be in pure
But
Really
awareness.
also,
enjoyed your TED
but,
talk.
but also before he goes, or before I go, that understanding. If I had a pound or a dollar for every time that I thought that I was completely certain that I was in the right faith while studying and also going to church and going to um, confession and so forth, even before that, I generally believed that I was on the right path because I felt it. You know, that feeling within you, which we call the Holy Spirit, where you feel like it has to be right because I feel it.
Yeah,
It's the most strongest feeling I've ever felt in my life.
yeah.
Ugh, feelings.
And then I got, but then at the same time, I've had conversations with people that are from different faiths that feel exactly the same way, and I think to myself, but how can you feel as strongly as I feel about your faith compared to my faith? And that opened up questions, and it wasn't the devil; it was curiosity, it was understanding, it was
Belief.
a way to not, it was a way to not be vengeful or hatred towards those who don't seem to want to listen to my perspective.
Nobody's
Then I
in
realized,
hatred.
but then I realized that every perspective is there for a reason.
Of course.
And I look back in the Bible, for example, the Tower of Babel. God knew that we couldn't build a tower to heaven, but He still separated us and give us different tongues. You know, the Noah's Ark.
You think that really happened?
Well, I don't know if it happened, but it's still in the scripture. It's still a lesson to be learned from understanding. The same as Noah's Ark. Do I think Noah's Ark happened? Maybe. But at the same time, what was the message behind that? Because God said afterwards that He would never do it again.
We know that there wasn't a worldwide flood.
But he also said in the Bible that He would never do it again, right? So why would you do that and then say afterwards, I'll never do it again? Now, I'm not trying to be hypocritical and say because of that contradiction.
Because that's why rainbows exist.
Yeah, exactly. So at the same time, I would look at it like this. Every piece of information that's presented to us is our job to analyze, assess, and find out what makes the most sense to us. And then we can decide what is the right path, or there isn't one right path and there's multiple. And we can choose the one that makes the most sense to us and accept that other people have their own pathways that makes the most sense of them and not have contradictions and have a reason to be argumentative or have a problem with them at the same time and just say, okay, let's have a conversation.
It's what allows for discourse. It allows for discourse, and it allows us, having this humility allows us to be more civilized. Because
exactly.
there's a beauty. Hold on, brother. There's a beauty in understanding that we're all fundamentally weak and that we must come together in our weakness, and out of that weakness bring about something good. This is something beautiful. This is something beautiful.
Exactly.
That you will become aware of once you look upon the cross and you say that is God.
And the beauty of this moment right now, the same as any TikTok
Wait,
live,
the cross is God?
Any congregation,
Jesus.
This conversation.
Can I join this conversation, please? I wanted to.
Yes, please.
I wanted to say something about what JT said when he said like when he started going to church and like this, he started feeling spiritual, or it gives him a very good feeling. This is due to the hungerness of human to the need of faith, the need of, because it's like it's
But
embedded.
real quickly, wait, hold on, real quick.
Abdullah.
Can I get your age real quick?
22.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Okay. So I was saying that I knew that when he was talking, he said that that he feels that feelings when he go to church, but he also see another people also feel the same thing. So how can we define a good like the right religion on feelings? So I am a Muslim, and before I wasn't that religious, but once I got more religious, I had that feeling a lot. Then step by step, this feeling started to go. The feelings of the good feelings, which like give me peace and my side and like this. Then when I asked a scholar or somebody, he said to me, "This is a test from God, because you are not believing this belief for the feelings. If you are believing this belief for the feelings, not because it's the correct belief, that's another story. That's you only want to get like some good feelings, then you start to believe this belief." So my whole philosophy of just going or tracing some religion depending on the feelings which I get as a reward from believing that belief is not the correct way to treat religions or paths, or how can I say it? Did you get me?
Yeah, I got you.
No, for
That
sure.
was
Yeah.
very well said. Very well said.
So that like made me like to more concentrate with my mind, to search more about Islam, like with using my mind, not my emotions, because sometimes, because these emotions, it comes from the hunger of the soul to the belief, or to the, what they call it, to the faith, because it is embedded. God put in us the need of the faith. That's why some people who are saying we are like agnostic, or we are atheist people, they go to do some things that compensate for this, like they do that kind of yoga and something, or meditation, that will fulfill they like in a kind of other, they try to do like some kind of, what they call it, things to compensate for this, but it's in the end, you are a human and you do need this. So after my research, of course, like I became more confident about my belief in Islam, and this was my story.
And that was a very good story. And obviously, I don't have a right to speak right now, but that was very well said, because, you know, like you said, talking about feelings and using that as an excuse or a rationale behind why you believe in that faith. We all know, everybody here that's had any dealings with faith knows that when you're first indoctrinated into a faith and you feel that feeling within your heart, that fire of belief, where it's not the Holy Spirit or any belief, that you feel like you're on the right pathway. And that feeling tells you you're on the right pathway. And then again, after a time, that feeling dissipates and it starts to fade away. And then you then get challenged with questions and things that you don't quite understand. And then that sort of dissuades you or persuades you. Either way.
This is where faith comes in.
Exactly. That's where faith comes in, right?
I would like to say, as an actual agnostic atheist here, I don't do any of that stuff.
But at the same time, as an agnostic, I wouldn't sit here and say to you that you're not right.
Even
Because
what JT is saying, like even as an agnostic, you still have a need or an inclination to commune, right, with those that are of your kind, right? There's this what you're doing right now is literally that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, same
Yeah,
thing.
I don't necessarily think that it has anything
But
to
wait,
do
hold
with
on. But let me. So what a church does is actually quite beautiful, right? Because it takes this and it adds a transcendent value, and this is beautiful. This is very beautiful, because
Yeah.
these interactions should have a transcendent value. At the end of the day, these are gonna, what makes us love, show empathy and compassion is the relationships that we have. What's most important is gonna come from how we treat each other. So it has to have a transcendent. Why wouldn't it have a transcendent value? This is what structures are very reality.
Is that what Jesus judges you on? Is your relationships with other people?
Love
because-
God
Are you
with
sure?
all your heart, and love your neighbor with all your heart.
Yeah,
But from my perspective,
I disagree with JT and Maranatha on this.
Yeah, that's fine.
I disagree with what you said.
We can draw.
I
Hold
don't-
on, Justin. I know we can draw boundaries, and we absolutely should. That's why we should be armored, right? But we need to understand the objective here. The objective is for peace with our neighbors.
But also,
No,
if you're so
I
strong,
disagree
if you've
with
got the
that. I
armor,
don't believe that's biblical or of
But if you-
Jesus. I think that's actually demonic. But
but if you've got the armor that has tells you that you've got the truth,
I agree with
the
you,
armor-
Justin, that ultimately we should all turn to Christ, right? But to say that is going to happen by any other means than peace and reason is not. I would say you would be going into a more radical approach.
no,
So
it's just
it has to be.
it's actually what Christ
We have
actually
to.
did.
We have to. We
What he
have to
actually
follow
said.
the tradition of the first Christians, and
Jesus, you mean the tradition of Jesus?
the first
The person
Christians.
that
How
you
did-
actually believe
So
in?
what differs us from Islam, right? For example, is that our religion we came to our religion through
Who's the
faith
first
and
Christians?
reason
Is it
and
Catholics or is it
peace.
Eastern Orthodox?
No, don't.
Well,
Which ones are first?
He
we
does.
both
That's not
hold
true
to
for
that.
me, Maranatha. I don't. That's not true for me. Whatever you
Okay,
just
I
said.
got you. I got you. Well, that's what I personally believe, bro. I
Yeah,
personally believe that through peace and reason, we can evangelize way better than
Yes,
any
and
other
I,
way.
I second that. I second that point. That
I
point was
think
very important.
personally, like the human's necessity for communion has nothing to do really with like belief. It's got to do a lot with like biologically, like adapting to its being socialistic creatures.
So
That's
why are we sitting at a table
eventually.
right now as a in the same any country for that matter of every single perspective from science, from atheism and religion and agnostic, and sitting having a conversation to speculate upon all theories to come to the right conclusion that's beneficial to everybody, whether you believe in an afterlife or you don't. That's the thing that I find most
Yeah,
fascinating.
I would rather be an atheist if what you're talking about is true. I would rather be an atheist than believe for the reasons you
Welcome to
guys are laying
atheism,
out.
Justin.
No, that's fine. I don't believe the reasons. The reason why I'm a Christian is not anything what they're talking about. I'd rather be an
So,
atheist than what they're talking
so
about.
Gilgamore, I just want to add. I just
I
want to
know,
say
dude.
something. I just want to say something, brother. It's not all about biology. You have to, because I was in the same position, right, when I was an atheist. And but listen. Your intelligence takes you out of your biology, and this is inherently true. Your intelligence is so powerful that
Intelligence is a function of
you are not a
biology.
slave. You are not a slave to your
Yeah.
biology.
No,
How
no,
is
no.
it
And
any
your
I
different than
disagree.
the
intelligence, hold
Hindu
on.
guy that just left?
Let me just say your
It's the same
intelligence
thing he
needs
was
to be.
talking about.
No, this
Yeah,
is just
I
objective.
disagree.
What are you
I
talking about?
disagree. I highly disagree. The intelligence is a process of biological. Intelligence stems from biological processes. Like,
Your
This is the same
intelligence,
thing the guy was
your
talking about. It's
intelligence
all
makes
just
you
awareness.
different.
It's all just awareness. Now you're
No, no,
just
no,
saying
no, no.
it's all intelligent. It's the same thing. You're just
Dude,
using a different mouth sound.
no. This is basic. This is basic philosophy. What are you talking
yeah,
about?
basic philosophy
This is basic
agrees that
This
philosophy.
is not basic
basic
philosophy.
philosophy agrees that it's a
Maybe that's
biological
the problem is that
process.
it's basic philosophy.
Yeah,
Yeah, but at the same
you're
time, we could have a
you're
conversation
in
with an
you.
atheist and a
You're not
Christian.
a slave to your biology. I don't see how you can disagree with that.
I'm
You
not
are not
saying
a
that I am
you are
a
not you
slave
don't
to my
follow the same
biology.
inclinations as a dog. You don't
Yeah,
follow
I'm
the
not.
same inclinations as a cat.
Yeah, that's a
There is
category
something
error.
unique. There is something
Yeah, they have
unique
different
about you.
biologies than we do.
That's a category
Yeah.
error. We're talking about
Can I
human
put a comment?
biological processes.
Can I put a
I can't
comment?
just compare like dolphins or whales or sharks towards like human processes. That's not the same thing.
Yeah, bro. You've actually
Okay.
defined God out of it.
So
You
so
basically
you don't.
joined the atheist by defining God out of the out of your worldview, and then just you tack on Jesus at the end, just to be like, hey, it makes us feel better about our
But
presuppositions.
but
That's
at the same
basically what you're
time,
saying.
trying to negate the difference between a Christian and an atheist in terms of an argument or a conversation is that of trying to convince an atheist of the Christian belief or
So
an
Justin,
atheist
just out
trying to
of
convince them of the
curiosity,
opposite of that. It's so difficult to do and it's
Yeah,
impossible. And that's
it's like
why
you're
you
conversations.
living.
have to
You're
make an
basically
attempt.
promoting
This.
atheism. You're basically promoting cultural Christian, like just being a
Okay, all
cultural
right, Justin.
Christian.
So
That's what
show
you're
me how it's
promoting.
done. How would you tackle that? That it's all fundamentally
It sounds to me like
biology.
it doesn't sound like you're promoting atheism. It sounds like he's promoting the same thing Shark does, which is semantic theism.
Yeah,
No, because it's not just
it's
that.
Gnosticism basically. Yeah, you're right. That's
It's
what
not
Shark is, a Gnostic.
Gnosticism either, because again, I'm Catholic,
Well,
so I believe in the
you're appealing
church.
to intelligence. That's agnosticism.
Well, it's not
I mean,
Gnosticism
Gnosticism, not
because
agnostic.
Gnosticism
It's
rejects the
Gnosticism.
material, so it's just Catholic.
Yes,
This
that's
is
what
where we're gonna
intelligence is.
disagree. This
Well,
is where we're gonna disagree.
Gnosticism would appeal to knowledge,
Can
Exactly.
I add a
not
comment on this
necessarily
point?
intelligence.
Yeah, but
The point of
Gnosticism
What
biology?
spiritually rejects the material.
what do you think he's talking about as intelligence?
Okay, if we say that
What's the
intelligence is coming,
actualization of intelligence? Is knowledge.
Yeah, and sharing knowledge and understand different perspectives.
So tell me, Justin, how would you answer Gilgamore then that it's all biology?
I mean,
can
I would take it a whole different direction. I mean,
Okay,
it'd be a
how
whole
would you?
different conversation.
Justin, if I can
mean,
respond to you real
yeah,
quick
go
about
ahead, go
knowledge,
ahead.
I think knowledge is a part of intelligence, but it's not necessarily the whole of intelligence. It also has to deal with like the application and acquisition of knowledge.
Yeah,
But
it has to be institutional.
that would just be your position on knowledge.
Like
It all
I'm
starts
not
with
saying
knowledge,
I'm not
and then
saying primarily.
you're just confirming what you find to know.
Yeah, like I'm not saying
That's why it's called
primarily that humans are.
JTB plus, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's Getier's problems that adapted JTB. So I mean, I,
But shouldn't
I
we,
don't
So then we
necessarily
add on
agree
the
with it.
plus to deal with the skepticism.
but
Yeah, but
shouldn't we be
anyway,
asking the question?
hang on.
Shouldn't we be asking
So
the question that,
I'm not.
if we're all here right now having a conversation with different perspectives and beliefs, shouldn't we be asking the most pivotal question? Is that what is the motive of anything, i.e., God, or why we're here? Because even though we believe in one thing or the other, and trying to persuade or dissuade that of one perspective compared to the other
Yeah.
is very unlikely to be of any benefit. Because at the same time, we also recognize when you can understand logic and belief and believe in one thing or not, that there's a lot of people that have their own belief systems because of their own logic and science, and those who have their own belief system because of their religion, for example. So surely we should be conversing about why do we seem to have the same reoccurring conversation that occurs many times, and this is probably one of the most civilized conversations of different perspectives that I've been a part of, thankfully. So how do we come to a conclusion where we realize that firstly,
Damn,
if
that's
we're religious,
that's a
it's God's
fantastic
problem,
question.
and
We're
firstly,
never going
but
to come into any
Oh
form of
yes, we
agreement.
can.
but it
What are
is
you
God's
talking
problem,
about?
right?
You absolutely
It
can.
is God,
No,
but it is God's
we
problem.
can't. And
It
I
is
think
God's
the reason it
problem.
has to do with the fact that, for example, I as an atheist would have to subscribe towards like materialism or physicalism. You as a theist would have to subscribe to something that would be like transcendental, metaphysical, or even like um, appealing to some form of how can I say this divinity. So we're never going to come into an agreement because how I view things from my worldview is going to be entirely different from how you view yours, view things from yours.
That's not
So,
necessarily
so, so we
true.
can
You
agree that.
hold
So we
you
can agree
hold
then, though. So
Nothing about atheism entails that you must accept materialism.
No, I
That's
know that. I'm just
exactly
saying,
right.
like,
That's
I'm
exactly right.
using myself as an example. I said I, as a materialist, like,
but you're not. I don't
I'm not
believe
saying
you're
that
fully
every
a
atheist is going to
materialist.
be a materialist. I'm not going to generalize every atheist out there because then that would just be
Oh, that's
hasty
what it sounded like you were
generalization.
saying. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that every atheist is a materialist, but I'm saying like people from like as an atheist, it would be more logical for me to subscribe towards like materialism to defend my stance, right? And this
Can,
a lot of atheists would choose to be materialist or
that's not
so
true.
it
physicalist.
boils down.
That's
So it
not
boils
true
down
at
to.
all. That's not true
But
at
it
Wait,
all.
boils
how
down
is
to.
that not true?
A lot of
There are a
atheists
lot of
subscribe to
idealists
some
too.
transcendent. A lot of atheists, well, as a category, a lot of atheists subscribe to some sort of transcendent value. They absolutely
What
do. That's why you
are
have
you?
like Sam Harris, for example. Exploring,
What do you mean by transcendent
meditation
value?
and all
Like,
that.
are you talking about morality? Because that's not what I'm talking about.
No, what I'm saying is, okay, I'll give you this. Talking to a materialist about this, yes, that's a harder bridge to build. But talking to a lot of atheists about this, it's an easy bridge, man, because a lot of people reject this pure materialistic perspective because it denies so much of the human experience.
What denies so much of the human experience if you're abiding by physicalist or naturalist?
There is a transcendent value to the human experience.
But even if I didn't subscribe towards a transcendent value, I would still have
I'm
some
not
form of
sure what you mean
value.
by transcendent. I must have missed it.
The product of the imagination.
Yeah, so you think just because I subscribe towards like physicalism and naturalism that I won't necessarily have a process of imagination?
Your imagination is limited, very limited. That's why a
So if
lot
you
of atheists
subscribe towards
reject.
transcendent
Hold on,
value,
brother. That's why a lot of atheists reject a pure materialistic perspective
that
because it's
doesn't
so
sound right.
limited. Oh,
That
it's the
doesn't sound
truth.
right at all.
It's the truth.
No, because you're basically saying that if you subscribe some objective transcendent value, then your imagination or your values are far more in depth than someone who subscribes to physicalist or naturalist.
Absolutely,
That doesn't make any
absolutely.
sense. That doesn't follow. That's a non
Someone
sequitur.
that hold on, bro. Someone that adds a transcendent value to like the concept of love is way more useful than whatever you can build in the material world.
Yeah,
That's just
can
a
you? What's
that's
going to
just
be
a
your
fact,
argument?
bro.
What's
That's
going to
just
be
a
your
fact.
argument for that, though?
Because it's
Just a
just a
mo-
fact. That is a
No,
reality
no,
of your
that's not
existence, man.
that's not an
You want
argument.
someone to, you want to love, and you want someone to love you. Is this not the
That's
case?
that's not an
So,
argument.
so from an atheist perspective, what would you say God,
Or
if there
do
was
you
a God?
reject love?
But also, what is
I
Problem with
God's
don't
motive?
reject
materialism.
love at all,
That's the
but
problem with materialism right there. It will
there
Yeah,
is
reject
but at
no
the same
love.
problem with
time,
materialism. Hang on a second, JT. Like, right, you're saying you're making a claim. The specific claim is based on the presupposition that transcendent values give more meaning towards someone who would subscribe to physicalism or materialism, because if
That's just so obvious. That's
physicalism or
so obvious. I don't know
materialism,
how you can disagree with that,
yeah,
brother.
I'm
I don't
not
know how you
I'm
can
not
disagree
logically
with that.
following. You're saying that materialism or
That's the problem.
physicalism
That's the
is
problem.
limited in imagination or in some form of like value, that it's just limited, it's cut short.
Again, I
So
gave you an
how does it
example.
follow?
I
Hang on.
gave you an
How does it
example.
follow
Whatever
that
whatever value a
wait, can I
materialist.
finish? Can I finish? How does it follow that abiding by objective transcendent values objectify meaning or values towards someone's life far more than physicalism or materialism? How does it follow? Because right now I asked for an argument, but you
Okay,
haven't exactly presented one. You're
I'll
just saying that's a
simplify this.
fact.
I'll simplify this as much as I possibly can. There is a difference between a science book and a poetry book. And if you don't know the difference, brother, then I
And
weep for you, brother. I
That
weep for you.
doesn't that's category error.
It's
You're
not
not
it's
addressing.
man. Stop getting so logical, brother. It's just
I,
so
hey,
obvious. There is a difference
I
between.
I agree that there are differences between science books and poetry
There you go.
books. What do you think that indicates?
That
What do you think that
you
indicates?
get a lot more from a poetry book than you would from a science book.
Do you not know?
It's
Do you not
nonsense.
understand
Because
why that would be?
poetry can explain something that science can't explain. It just can't.
Hang on, Maranatha, you still haven't addressed my specific question.
I
You're
have.
just
You're just
saying
not
that no,
tracking. You're just not
no,
tracking because you
no.
reject love.
This
Ultimately,
is this is no
this
Maranatha.
isn't
This
a
is no
tracking.
more. It's no
You're
more
just
effective.
saying that
It's
you
no.
find poetry
Yeah,
to be
it's
more
the same
valuable
thing
than
as the
science books.
Hindu
It doesn't
guy
mean
that just
anything.
left.
it's
Yeah,
not
it's
the same thing. How is it the same
this is
thing?
as powerful as the young guy that was up here talking about awareness.
Okay, so let's dive into it. Sage, what's the difference between a science book and a poetry book?
Yeah, that's not actually
Oh,
addressing what I just
Gilgamore,
said.
I'm
I
not
mean,
talking to
one
you.
is
I'm
poetry, one is
talking to
science.
Sage.
Science wants to explain the particulars of how things work. Poetry, it's kind of hard to define, but there
Yeah,
are some
that's the
poetry
problem.
books.
That's a
There's
problem.
some poetry books would want to explain the feeling behind an experience.
Okay,
Some, maybe not all.
This is if this is the only definition that you have from poetry, or like what poetry does to the human experience, how it moves people, how it adds transcendent value to experiences and relationships.
Some adds value. It doesn't necessarily
Okay,
have a transcendent value.
Yeah,
I'm
absolutely,
just
it has
not.
a transcendent value,
I'm
because
just not.
my relationship is not my relationship is not in the Bible, but from the Bible, it gives me this deep
Okay,
value,
dude,
deep
cut
value
off,
that I
cut the
share
med
with
off,
my
cut the med off,
wife.
please. Cut the med off.
If I could read what transcendent means, at least according to Oxford Languages, it means beyond or above the range of normal or merely physical human experience.
Yeah.
Poetry a lot of poetry seeks to explain or describe that. So that would not be transcendent.
Now, I want you to cut the
Okay,
med
hold
off.
on.
Hang on, no.
If it goes
Tell me to
above
hold on.
the
Hang
physical
on.
experience,
You're
that
not
means
addressing what I just said. So
Gilgamore,
this
I
is
already
exactly
addressed
how
you, so,
this.
but
No,
I
you
was talking
haven't.
to Sage. Like, I don't
Yeah, it
understand
does.
why you keep
Hang
on
on.
butting in.
It doesn't matter. You haven't addressed what I just said. This
Go
is what
ahead.
happened,
Go
right?
ahead.
I specifically said that it doesn't logically follow that abiding by some form of transcendent value would increase more meaning or more value towards something that would be intrinsic in comparison to physicalism or materialism. Your response was, it's just a fact. That's not responding.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Gilgamore,
Can I?
It's
can I
like you
ask you a
think
question?
Can I
it seems
clarify?
like it just seems like you want to treat them like they're just like a bird with with the leg broken that you just have to mend it. Like they got all the basic makeups. You just need to kind of fix them a little bit. It's just seems like that's the way you're coming. Like you're wanting
No,
to
I'm
help.
trying to build a bridge with him because I understand where he's coming from.
Well, then please do brief.
Do you though?
Because right now it just sounds like a non sequitur.
Okay, so let's. So Sage read off the definition. Sage just read off the definition. I think we already agreed that the most important physical experience that we can have is in the context of a family, right? Can we agree on that? So I can flesh out.
No, I could not agree on that.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody agrees with that.
Then you guys are just completely out of alignment with reality.
It sounds like you're the one who's out of alignment with reality.
1 second, guys. Can I speak to Gilgamore for a second? He pointed a point a few minutes ago, and I was trying to point it out, but nobody gave me the chance. Gilgamore, you said the intelligence is an extent, or it's something that comes from biology, like the evolution of the biology made intelligence. So let's take this logic further. So this intelligence make us as a human. So somebody can say the biology, the nature laws, physics laws made me in this way, and it made me in such a way that I want that money so much, so I am ready to rob that bank and take all of that money, and nobody can condemn me because it's just the nature laws.
That's just
I am
nonsense.
just the nature laws. Yeah, it is.
Exactly.
It's just the nature law.
Our justice system, just so you know, Gilgamore, is a transcendent value. Just so you know that. Just so you
Our
understand.
justice system is based on ethics.
And what is ethics if it's not? If ethics doesn't have a transcendent value, how is ethics worth anything?
Do you think that ethics is inherently objective?
We sure act as it is, Gilgamore. Come on,
no.
You live in a different world, bro.
You only deny this because it harms you. Because when somebody robs you, it harms you.
Exactly.
That's it. Otherwise, every person, the biology made him, and the laws of the nature made him, and it gives him that feelings that he want to do that such thing.
So let me ask
determinism.
you
Determinism doesn't remove culpability.
Yeah,
Determinism does not.
Let me ask you in regards to that.
Okay,
how do you follow? How does it follow that biological processes will lead you to become a bad person? Could you bridge the gap between those things?
In this way, each person will have his own. He will have his own perspective of law, and each person he will just do.
Yeah, that seems to map on reality
because it's just biology. It's just
that already seems to map onto reality.
I am robbing a bank. It's just biology taking into action.
That's not even a refutation.
This intelligence is coming from biology.
That's not a refutation to what I just said. That's not a refutation to what I just said. So how does it follow that speaking about biological processes leads to subjectivism? Where did you get this from?
What do you mean by subjectivism?
I'm talking about biological processes and intelligence, and you're saying that it somehow equates to a biological processes and stemming from like intelligence stemming from biological processes, just completely leading to subjectivism. How does that logically follow?
I'll tell you. You said intelligence evolves from biology. Okay, so the human different persons are evolved in different ways. Why should you put the law on him that he made the wrong thing because his evolution, the biological evolution, made him this way? Why do you put him in the jail? If we follow his rules, the biological, what made him think this way, what make him feel this way, he will put his own rules. And these rules won't condemn him. So in this way, we cannot put rules. We cannot put fair rules. Like there are rules, but we already put rules, but they are not fair because who put it is not the people, not like the people, only people in power who put the rules. And you know that, yani. Because, for example, and you know, like Western countries have rules.
Gap?
other Eastern countries have different
This
rules because
is
they are
beyond you
different
because you're
people.
limited, Gilgamesh.
So
But
we
he's
need a
making a
rule
lot of
from
sense.
God.
He's not making a lot of sense. How do you get from biological
Yeah, it
processes
is.
to suddenly skipping
Well,
ahead to morality?
Yeah, it
because
is.
because your beliefs give birth to your morality, man. What are you talking
What?
about?
No,
See,
beliefs don't give birth to your morality.
materialists are too much, man. Materialists are too much, man.
That's
They're
not
just
even
too
responding
close,
to what I just said.
too close-minded, bro. Way too close-minded.
That's not even responding to what I just said. If anything, you're not tracking.
Would
I'm tracking. It
you
doesn't follow.
agree? Would you agree that your beliefs give birth to your morality, or no?
Let's say this. He skipped from. He
Physicalists
went
would
from
say that
X.
beliefs are a result of biology and brain states too. So,
Yeah.
like, I don't see the problem.
Yeah, that doesn't
He
change
said.
the fact that it forms your
He said
morality.
X.
So he won't even accept that.
He said X leads to Z.
He's way
but
too
did not explain
close-minded.
the
You
why.
can't talk to a person like that.
How am I close-minded? Because you say so?
Gilgamore, I'll tell you something. In like if you think about it realistically, you cannot have like pure definition of what's right and wrong from people, because people evolved in different ways. Just the laws which we put right now, it's the laws which minimize the harm. But is it the correct? There are some people
Holy
are very
shit! Just
and they
stop,
are making
stop,
benefit.
stop.
Not stop.
Do you
not
know
stop.
what subjective morality means?
I don't know what is that big definition. Subjective
You don't know what
morality,
subjective morality means? Because right
I
now
don't
you're
know.
saying that from a subjective perspective.
What is
Morality
subjective
cannot
perspective
determine what
morality?
is good or bad. That's what
Okay,
you're
let
saying.
me complete. Let me complete.
Gosh, man.
So let me complete my sentence. Like what happens? Like for example, some rich people, and you know this in America, they make benefit of this position, and they can make rules to pass and what not to pass. So what in general, what happens is like the laws are put in to minimize in
You
some
think that
way.
doesn't happen in every country?
Minimize. So like this, you don't have any definition. You cannot say to
You
any
just
person,
defined
don't do that because
You
this
just
is wrong.
defined it.
Don't. No,
You
because
just did.
what is minimal for you is not minimal for other person.
What are you
If it's
talking
minimal
about?
for you,
You just
because
did.
no.
You literally
If
just
you are
said
a
that
rich
in the
person,
court systems they
let me
run
complete.
these through multiple different people to make an agreement as to what is right or wrong.
No,
You just
let me
defined
complete.
subjective morality.
Being loud doesn't mean that you are correct. Let me complete.
Being what?
That doesn't mean that doesn't mean that you are correct.
What doesn't mean that I'm correct?
Like now, who put rules in USA are the people in power. So what minimize the like the bad laws for them? This is what they put. It's not what is better for USA people. You get my point?
No, I don't. What are you arguing about?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Are
yes,
you
it is.
saying that
So
because
what
I'm a
is more
physical
beneficial for them?
hang on. Are you saying that because I'm a physicalist or a naturalist that I have absolutely no sense of morality whatsoever?
Yeah, where does morality come from?
So morality
how
can
can
be
you
any
put-
form of framework.
Hold on.
you to
Let
put
him
the
answer.
rules?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can argue for
Who are you to put the
intersubjectivity. You
rules?
can argue for. Hang on a second. You can
No,
argue for
I'm asking
intersubjectivity.
you.
can be,
I'm asking you. Where does your
my sense of
morality come from?
From subjective
Yeah.
minds. It's dependent.
Okay, so it
on
comes. So
people.
you are the arbiter. You are the arbiter of morality. You
No,
get to define.
That seems to track with that. That seems to track with what I see in reality.
Yeah.
What's that?
So
yeah, no. Obviously, that's why it's a contradiction. That's
how
why
is it
it's a
contradiction?
ridiculous
What's
belief
the P and not
that
P?
comes from your materialism.
No, hang on. You said it's a contradiction.
And you
what's the
should
P and
drop
not
it.
P?
You should repent and believe otherwise.
Stop right there.
Do you think that you agree with God's morality?
Yeah,
You're
what's
agreeing
the P
with it,
and
right?
not P?
In your mind?
Yeah, I'm saying outside of what I believe, what he believes is ridiculous, and
No,
everyone
I
knows
don't
it.
care what you believe in. You said
Outside
that
of
it's a
what I
contradiction. Give me the
believe,
P and not P.
his
Give me
beliefs
the
do
P
not
and
stand on
not
any
P.
type of merit and do not stand on
Maranatha.
any type of
Maranatha.
reality. and
No, you're not
they
though.
come from thinking that everything is
Yeah, I'm
material.
gonna
That's
mute
why
you because you just keep talking. I'm just gonna mute you because you're not listening.
it's the truth, brother.
No, it's not because you said it's a contradiction. I asked you for the P and not P. You're not answering. What's the
Being
P
a
and not P?
materialist is a burden to the human experience, brother.
That's
And
not a P
just
and not P. Give
believe
me a P and not P.
believe otherwise.
What's the P and not P?
You don't live in a society or operate under this assumption.
That's not a P and not P.
What do you mean? That's not a P. That's
You said
what do
it's
you
a
mean?
contradiction. I need the
Your
P and not P.
beliefs don't fit in your reality, and the way that
That's
you experience your reality and the way you live out your reality. It's a contradiction.
that's okay. What's the P and not P? You're saying that it's a contradiction. Can you provide that?
That you walk around
I think he
assuming that
means
there is an
performative.
objective standard. When you interact with people, you assume that there is an objective standard.
Are you just
Gilgamore,
saying
No,
that he just
no, I
waters?
means
don't.
a
What do you
he
mean?
just
When
means a
you interact
performative.
with someone, do you have to so ridiculous, man. This is just such a ridiculous way of thinking.
What leads you to the what leads you to the realization that I have so hang on. What leads you to the realization that I
Justin
abide
is
by
more
some
equipped.
form?
Justin is more equipped to like kind of flesh this out for you how ridiculous it is. So like Justin, if you wanna
Justin will
talk.
completely disagree with what you're saying.
Gilgamore, I have a question for you.
What's your question?
Can I put a question? Yeah, I'll tell you. The ancient Egyptian civilization, they agreed with people to marry their sisters. Okay, their sisters. Okay, and they agreed. Do you think this is moral? Do you think this is moral for their babies when they came and they have like being born in and they have a lot of disease? This is they just follow the majority, but this majority doesn't include the babies that they don't have any rights to say to be born have those kind of diseases and those kind of what they call it. So in this way,
So
Can
hang on.
can I
So
fix your
this is
presupposition
moral.
here? Is
This is a
there's
moral.
nothing about subject
Can I
there's
complete?
nothing about
I didn't
there is
finish.
nothing
I
about
didn't finish.
there is nothing about subjective morality that requires that I accept someone else's morality. Nothing about it says that I have to do
Okay,
that.
okay.
But listen, if you
Do I
don't
think that
accept,
those
hold on,
people
hold
would
on,
think they
hold
were
on.
moral? Sure,
But
those
if you
people
don't
would think that
accept
they
other
were
didn't
moral.
finish. I didn't
morality,
finish.
That's all it's saying.
if you don't
I didn't
accept
finish.
other
I
people's
didn't finish.
morality, what gives you the
Hang on.
right
Nowadays,
what
Oh,
gives you the
boy.
right to have your morality win their morality?
Dude,
If they're
why are you
doing something
muddying
that
the
you
water?
hold, if there's something within your morality that you hold so repulsive, that how will you get the other party to follow that morality? It would have to be through force and conflict. There is no other way. This
What
is the most
framework are
dangerous
you
thing of
arguing
this
about?
ideology. This is the most that it leads to conflict. It leads to conflict and it leads to fighting. That's why Gilgamore can't have a civilized discussion. That's why he's so close-minded. It's
I'm
ridiculous.
close-minded.
It's a
Are you aware
ridiculous
that what
belief.
you're making right now is called a false cause assumption?
And I don't care what it's
can I
called.
complete,
It's called,
Do you
Gilgamore?
think?
call it
I
Hang on.
didn't finish, Gilgamore.
Dude, I'm talking right now. Do you think that because of morality would be objective, that you have to abide by it?
That's what makes us civilized, bro.
So
And
you
you
think
not
that
having
you can't
understanding,
ignore moral
you not
truths?
having an understanding of that is very sad, bro. It's very
Oh, so
sad.
you think that that if objective morality follows, then everyone must abide by those subjective standards?
So would you be okay with a society going back to slavery?
No, I wouldn't be.
Okay, so should slavery be legal for how long?
You do know that regardless of whether you're
Under
asking me a question
under
regarding
what conditions
hang on,
would you
hang on,
be okay
hang on.
slavery
You do
being
realize,
brought back into
hang on,
society?
you do realize that asking me a question regarding slavery doesn't change the fact that it happened under an objective or subjective worldview, right?
Slavery is now the objective reality, brother, and that is never coming back because we
It's still
understand
here.
how repulsive
See you
and how
later,
Still
guys.
evil it
I am
is.
exists.
going.
It still
I will go.
exists. It never went away.
Yeah, and when it exists, it is an injustice, and we should remedy it.
Yeah, it's an injustice, but keep in mind that also
Levitical law
200
would seem
Like
to
I said,
disagree.
there's no
yeah,
justice within
keep in
within your
mind
worldview.
keep in mind that 150 years people accepted it. What's your argument for that?
That they were wrong.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. You just conceded.
How did I concede?
Because you said that if objective morality was the case, that people would have to abide by objective morality. You said, in your
No.
own
People
words,
can
that it
reject
would
the
follow, that they
what? You
have
just
to
added
follow
words
it.
into my mouth. I never
No,
said
that is
that they have to.
exactly what you said.
Bro, I'm a Catholic. You think that we don't understand that we reject the objective morality
I
within
asked you,
my religious
I
framework? Come
asked
on.
you very specifically that if
Sin is a
objective
very,
morality,
very
hang on,
descriptive
I
topic.
asked you, if objective morality exists, would you be able to reject moral truths? You said no. Now you're saying that they were wrong, which means they ignored moral truths.
Yeah, I believe in free will.
What in the hell does that have to do with the conversation we're doing right now?
That you can reject objective moral goods.
So then objective morality, so then you concede the point.
Capacity to reject what is
So
good.
then you concede the point that objective
That
morality
doesn't mean that we
aren't
should.
going to be obligated to be followed.
Again, this is what you don't understand. And like what I was talking to the host is that many people don't understand the Catholic position. We don't hold to one or the other. We hold to an objective standard. And within that objective standard, subjectivity does exist, but it doesn't nullify the objective standard.
So then why in the hell did you just say that if objective moralities existed, you have to abide by it? You literally agreed to that.
You ought to abide by it.
You said, when I asked you, you said,
Let me
yes.
clarify. You ought to abide to the objective standard.
Okay,
that doesn't mean that we don't fall short.
That still doesn't change that you conceded the point.
It changes everything because it makes my position more logical than yours. Because within my position, objectivity exists and subjectivity exists, not against each other, but in cohesion.
Yeah, in my position as well. I'm a contractionalist.
No, your position, only subjectivity exists, and it's limited by subjectivity, and it opens the door to many bad things.
I'm a contractionalist, dude.
You're an idiot, bro.
Do you know what a contractionalist is?
Oh, man, bro. Bro.
It's
just a reality. It's just a reality.
Intersubjective.
So you believe in objectivity and subjectivity? What is intersubjectivity?
Yes, that's what contractionalism is.
You do, so then why do you get your morality
You've been arguing
yourself?
my position. You've been arguing my position for me the whole entire time without even listening. You never asked me for my moral position. You've been making accusations the entire time.
You said your morality comes from your subjectivity. That's what you said.
Yeah, I said that
the explain it to me
specific morality you were talking
because
about.
Because it sounds like you're contradicting yourself. So explain it to me.
No, I'm not. I've never contradicted myself. So you just weren't logically following. You've been poisoning the well.
Flesh this out. Where does your morality come from?
I just told you.
You told me from your subjectivity. So how does that make you in whatever you just said? That subjectivity
agreement of what is reasonably rejectable among people.
Yeah, so that still comes. So what? That reason becomes the objective. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. That's intersubjective.
So the reason that you guys have becomes the objective. Now, here's the real kicker, brother. What grounds that?
Epistemic.
What keeps that constant?
What keeps it constant? People.
So if people disagree with each other in the next generation, for example, then what value does that objectivity have? For example, then what value does that objectivity have?
What do you mean? What value does the objectivity have?
Man, see, bro, like I can't talk to people like that.
Did you not just listen to what I just said?
Look, you said that the reasoning between people let's use slavery, for example. The reasoning of the people give this objective value, right? That slavery will be illegal now forever, right? How do you ground that? You said within the people. So if the people, the next generation, decide to change that objective standard, they have the right to do so.
No, how does that follow? Did you not hear the words reasoning come out of my mouth?
Reasoning, someone can reason themselves into bad situations. What are you talking about?
So
are you holding to the belief that reason is inherently like?
Let me ask you a quick clarifying question. Do you think that it's reasonably rejectable that it's okay to harm a child?
We've harmed so many children since the dawn of civilization. I don't know what kind of dumb
That's
question.
Not answering the question.
What do you mean? Slavery has been a constant since the dawn of civilization, brother. What kind of dumb question is that?
That's not a dumb question. That's a
It's a
clarifying
very
question.
dumb question because you're acting like human beings don't have the capacity to harm children, harm women, harm each other, harm the nature, harm the environment.
Yeah,
Like,
they
what
do.
reality?
I know the
what
Catholic Church
reality?
certainly does.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Catholic
exactly.
Church fails. The Catholic Church fails.
You're a
But
Catholic.
at
What are you
least,
talking about?
but at least it remains constant. And what
Oh, it
remains
remains
constant
constant, all
is the
right? That Sam
spiritual
insurance
truths.
must be
The
freaking terrible
spiritual
to have.
truths that it says is objective. That's what I appreciate about the Catholic Church, actually.
I appreciate the Catholic Church has Sam
Did
insurance
did
too.
did Jesus say that we should judge a tree by its fruits, and that a good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit?
Yeah, correct.
What kind of fruit has the Catholic Church borne?
He still
The
hasn't
Catholic.
even really argued my freaking point.
The
Like,
people
you've
within
just
the
been
Catholic
putting.
Church have failed beyond belief because it's an impossible standard. But the church as a whole has benefited civilization immensely, and it still continues to do so. Because I know you guys are going to reject this, like everyone rejects it, but the Catholic Church is still the #1 humanitarian effort worldwide. So it just stands to be true.
I mean, yeah, it would be the #1 humanitarian worldwide
Oh,
if it
here
was
we
causing
go.
those
The
humanitarian
rejection.
issues.
The rejection. It doesn't change the fact, Gilgamore, that within your framework, that slavery could be brought back in the next generation.
I just know that
within your
disgraceful
framework.
I just know that by
position you
Jesus's
hold, and
framework
it
we
is
should reject the
unacceptable. And
What
it
the
is
by
hell are you
Jesus's
talking
framework we
about,
should
dude?
reject the
It's actually
Catholic Church.
unacceptable as a man.
What the hell are
brother.
you talking
can't
about?
hold
Within
that.
your
You can't
framework,
hold
it
as
could be
a.
brought back too.
What's that?
Within your framework, it could be brought back too.
No, because we've
Oh,
already
it can't.
said that.
You just conceded that moral truths can be ignored. So even if humans were to disagree on something, it would still be brought back. So
Yeah,
what the
but
fuck are you talking about?
what anchors those moral truths are the objective source, which is a transcendent
You
value.
literally don't know what the hell you're talking about.
It's the objective source from these moral truths. For example, within Christianity, is the church, and then you have the figure of Christ. So this is that Christ is the transcendent value. The church is the objective, foundation. And that's how, even if we fall, even if we don't keep it, we still have that as a pillar. We still have that as a rock.
And a church is an objective foundation.
It acts as an objective foundation because of its transcendent value. Does that make
church acts
sense?
as a transcendent value?
No. It has an objective foundation because of its transcendent value.
Okay. Can you define objective for me?
Everything that we just been discussing.
No. Define objective for me.
Something that remains constant.
That's not what objective means.
It's independent of anyone's mind, and it remains constant no matter the given circumstance, no matter the given time, and it even exists outside of time.
Yeah, so when you say church, are you talking about like the physical building church?
Hold on a second. Hold on a second, Gilgamore.
Okay, so Gilgamore,
Hold on a sec. Hold on a sec.
I appreciate that.
Has the Catholic Church changed its stance upon anything?
Yes, and it can, because
guess it's not constant then.
The people within the Catholic
I guess it's
Church,
not constant then, is it?
The people within the Catholic Church hold to this truth that everyone is a sinner. We all fall short of the glory of God. Therefore, we're gonna err, but that doesn't mean that the church is, because Jesus Christ said that the church will never fall. That doesn't mean that the church is bad. That means that the people within the church are bad. And those
I've never
people
held
are
that
falling
belief even in
short.
Christianity.
This is the view within Catholicism, because you guys have probably rejected. I did the same thing, so I can't even, sound like prideful, because I did the same thing. I rejected anything that was transcendent. I had it made me angry, man, because I saw it as genuinely getting in the way of progress, and that pissed me off. But this is what I'm talking about here. Just seems to be true, and I would advise that you at least open yourself up a little bit, because it is true.
Biblical and inherent sin is true.
We each have the inclination to do good, and we each have the inclination to do evil.
Okay, so does Catholicism hold to inherent sin or transgressive sin?
It holds that our body was wounded, and that our flesh is inclined to sin.
So that's
That,
holding on to the doctrine
that
of
doesn't
inherent sin.
mean, but hold on. That doesn't mean that we're not also inclined to the good. We also are inclined to the good, but that good doesn't find its fullness in whatever means outside of submitting to Christ.
Do you think that you're born sinners?
No, that's what I just said. No, you're not born sinners.
Okay,
You're not
that's what I
born
was just
sinners.
asking.
Yeah, you're not born sinners because we have the idea of the soul. So the soul predates our physical creation, but the moment of conception, when our physicality does enter the world, it is wounded by original sin, and that original
Wait,
sin
what?
inclines us. Well, this is the belief, right? This is the belief. So let me slow it down. So we have the concept of the soul, right? The soul, you can look at it like the transcendent value of your physical being, right? This predates the formation of your physicality. Does that make sense?
No, I don't think it makes any sense.
Okay, well, this is just what we hold to. So your soul is not just made out of your physical. It predates your physical, and that soul was created by God. That soul is a part of God. Not a part in the sense, but it comes from God.
But where does the sin?
Where is our soul before it gets sent to heaven or sent to earth in our bodies?
It is uniquely created in the womb of your mother. Your soul.
Well, that would seem to be after the physical.
No, because what happens, so this is what we hold, this is one of the dogmas within Catholicism, which I do appreciate, and that's the sacredness of motherhood. So within the dogma of the sacredness of motherhood, it goes into this, if you're curious. But within the womb of the mother, the soul is uniquely created. A spark occurs inside of the womb of the mother, and that is your soul. And from your soul, God molds your physicality.
So it's at conception, or
It occurs pre-conception.
oh shit.
So
So like
wait,
while
you
you're
think
doing it,
you think that biological spark that occurs when sperm meets an egg and formulates a zygote is the
Is that
soul?
what the gleaming in your
I don't
father's
hold
eye
I don't
is?
hold I don't hold to that, but the philosophical understanding is just that. Is that the soul, because through your own existence you can understand that your physicality is not all that you are. There's something deeper that exists, that's not just the physical. That's why some
prove it.
people reject the physical, right? So
No, I don't think you
I
can
don't care
reject the
about
physical.
all this, my house, my money, be at peace, right? That's a rejection of the physical, right? Why do I have to work? What is all this? That's a rejection of the physical,
Oh, that's
and
not what
and
it
that's
means.
and
You're
that's you
equivocating, dude.
chasing. This is what we hold to. This is what we
You're
hold to.
equivocating terms. You're talking about like materialism in the sense of
Yeah,
like buying
you're talking
stuff
about
and blah blah blah.
materialism.
You're
Yeah, no,
equivocating.
no.
That's not
But
rejecting the physical.
consumerism comes from materialism. It is
But it's different
a
type of
byproduct.
material. It's materialism in
That's
a
an
different
equivocation
sense
of
than.
materialism.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not in the same sense as like naturalism, physicalism, that kind of materialism. It's a totally different thing.
Oh
I
no,
don't.
most people, when I say material, when I say material is, man, I don't know how to explain it. It's just what we create.
You're
What we
talking about somebody being materialistic, right?
Yes, and that comes
So
from thinking that all that exists is just what is.
yeah,
When you're talking
physicalism.
about someone being materialistic, that's not the same as holding to the metaphysical position of materialism. They're not the same thing.
They lend themselves to each other.
No, they're different senses of the word. That's what we're trying to tell you, dude. You got your definitions wrong.
Okay. What would make a consumer someone lean towards consumerism? Someone that just
Materialism.
Do you know
okay,
there's so many
okay.
spiritual and
So that's
Christians
what I'm saying. So that's what
consumerists?
I'm
Like,
saying.
there's so many
No,
people.
but we can call them hypocrites, brother. We can call them hypocrites.
It's just
I
a
We
can
were
go.
just
different thing.
we
It's
I
just
not
can
had
go into.
identical. Oh my
we
goodness.
just had a
No,
full-on
it's just what we
disagreement for the
believe.
last 15 minutes about me being a physicalist. You saying that it's harmful, but yet you didn't even know what the term actually meant.
What do you mean? Expand on that.
Yeah, you're talking about physicalism as if it's materialism, like purchasing items, or that these items can be expensive. I want this. Let me buy that bag. Let me buy that Louis Vuitton. That's
I didn't say that. I say
No,
they
I'm saying
lend
that's what
themselves
it's.
to each other.
Yeah, they don't. That's not
They
what
well,
physicalism even is.
that could be a point of disagreement between you and I, but they lend themselves to each other. I will
Yeah,
hold to
just
that to be true. Someone that's not a materialist and, for example, believes in the transcendent value has a better chance of not being a consumerist.
it just sounds like the last 15 minutes that you've been in disagreement with me. There's been a
No, that's not the case at
huge
all.
misunderstanding.
No, there hasn't, because I'm just expanding on that on what's already been understood. I'm saying that consumerism is a byproduct of having a materialistic perspective when it comes to the natural world.
Yeah, that doesn't relate with physicalism.
How does it not relate with physicalism?
Physicalism is just the idea that everything that exists is physical. Matter, properties that stem from matter, the mind, all those things are just physical properties. It has nothing to do with like purchasing or materialistic things existing and you like buying houses and properties. That's not even the same thing. That's equivocating.
Within your understanding, is materialism physicalism?
No,
Okay, so
they're
what is
different. They're
materialism then?
different categories altogether.
Okay, they're different categories. How?
Yeah, because materialism is based on greed and consumption of items that exist. Physicalism is just that everything that exists in the known universe is dependent on physical properties.
Okay, that's what I thought materialism meant.
Okay, well, how is that bad according to our
Because,
disagreement that we had for the last 15 minutes?
well, I still hold it would lead to consumerism. It's easier to lead to
Well,
consumerism for that reason.
that's the problem. See, it doesn't lead to consumerism.
Can you
Okay,
give an
so I just
argument
put
for that,
so I put a scenario.
Maranatha?
Do you think someone that has, this is purely speculative, right? But it is a scenario nonetheless, right? It doesn't need to be grounded in whatever you think things need to be grounded in. This is just speculation, right? So if someone that holds to a transcendent value, do you think they're put in a better position to reject consumerism?
No.
Okay, then that's another fundamental disagreement.
Can you give an argument to support this claim you keep
Yes,
making?
someone that holds to the figure of Christ is more inclined to do good and
That's
reject
just restating
consumerism.
the claim, dude. I'm saying give an argument to get us to believe that claim.
Just that. That's my argument.
That's not an
So,
argument. That's just a claim. But
Yeah,
someone who holds on to transcendent,
physicalism doesn't make any sense, and there's definitely something else besides just the physical.
like
well,
what?
So
if I were to say like someone who holds to transcendent values, right? You have multiple different church fathers that own uh, Rolls Royce. They own mansions. They own multiple different things of value that they take from tithes and money that belongs to the tithes.
church
Um,
fathers?
yes,
Oh, you're
I can
talking
give
about
you
like
I can give
mega
you a couple
pastors.
of them right now.
You're talking
Yeah,
about like mega pastors.
yeah,
Okay,
they
yeah,
hold to transcendent values, but yet they still subscribe to materialism.
yeah. No, we would call them hypocrites.
Yeah,
So
well,
so in order
it's
to
not something
properly,
that is.
Somebody could also be like a Luciferian and hold to like being like consumerist, so that
Yeah,
they would not agree to physicalism, but would also
I would say,
think that acquiring everything that they can in the physical world is a good thing.
I would say Christianity is the best protection we have against over consuming.
There are
yeah, but
many other
I don't
ways.
think it's not tied inherently to physicalism. It exists in whatever worldview. Materialism is just greed.
No way. You can't come to that conclusion just because you brought the example of a mega church pastor. I already said that you can call them hypocrites. So that's a jump. That's a jump that that you're making.
But it's not just mega pastors. It's a lot of people in the Christian church. How many people do you know that own multiple different pairs of shoes of the same brand?
Have you ever
or
seen a
multiple
Catholic
different
church?
Yeah. So again, that's the wealth of the church. All
Have you
all
ever
the
seen
human
a
beings
Catholic
within the
church?
church, all the
That's
human beings
individual
within the
wealth.
church die. And they can't have wives, they can't have children, and then they die. And so they enter this wealth knowing that it's not theirs. It is the church's.
Well, no, I'm talking about like people that belong to the church. Like if you go to church, there's going to be multiple people that belong in your own particular church that have watches that are worth over $600, that drive expensive, luxurious cars.
Yeah, no, I
This
agree.
exists everywhere.
I
It's
agree.
not necessarily mega pastures.
I agree.
Okay, let me just clarify. Let me just simplify it. It doesn't matter what your worldview is. Materialism applies to everybody.
No, not to the same degree. Can you at least agree on that?
No, to the same degree.
What the heck you mean to the same degree? You're saying there's not a difference between someone who decides to only have one home, live humbly, and only provide for what his family needs. When is the same thing as a millionaire who has like is buying off the market and just has all this wealth that he's just splurging on himself and his desires and his passions. There's no difference there to you.
Yeah, you think there's no atheist that exists that does that?
Well, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there a difference between the two?
Yeah, no, there's atheists that do that as well.
Oh,
This is
but
what I'm saying. Like, it
why are
doesn't
you
matter.
dodging? Why are you dodging? I'm asking if there's a difference.
Yeah, there is no difference.
There's no difference. That is, come on, bro. That is
Yeah,
wrong.
there is no difference.
That is
That
wrong.
exists in
How
both
do you
theistic
have
and
justice
atheistic
in that?
worldviews.
I just want everyone to see
How
that
does
you
this connect
cannot
to
have
justice,
justice there, bro. Because someone being a millionaire buying off the freaking real estate market and splurging on his desires and his passions is less noble and less virtuous than a family who's saving all the money they can, living just what their needs demand, and going from there. There's a difference. There's a difference. That
Yeah,
kind of
okay. So
mentality,
let me
that
so let me
kind of
ask you.
mentality. Hold on, one more thing. That kind of mentality, brother, is a capitalist wet dream, bro. Wet
Okay,
I
dream.
was
so
gonna say, are
let
you
me ask you.
anti-capitalist? I am.
So let me ask you
To
a
a degree,
question.
to a degree, I believe that capitalism needs a moral foundation in order for it to work as it should.
Hang on. So
Because
let me ask you a question real quick. What distinguishes theism and atheism from living modest lives like a poor person, taking care of their family, and just living under the bare minimum? What distinguishes the difference between theists and atheists?
yeah, the number one distinguisher is that within a theist's perspective, they know that it's not just what they think is right and wrong, but there's an objective standard outside of themselves that they need to try to follow regardless of the circumstances of their life. So even if that person, that Christian, becomes wealthy, he knows that the hypocritical thing to do would be to not share his wealth, right?
Yeah, so that still doesn't explain like the difference between like an atheist and a theist,
Well,
because
that's the difference. The atheist doesn't have this.
yeah, so I agree. We don't have this
So
transcendent
that's the
value that
There,
you're
there,
difference.
speaking
there,
about.
there
That's the
are
difference.
atheists who believe in objective morality.
Yeah,
Yes,
there
So that
are.
would
yes,
just be wrong.
yes. But hold on, you're going back on what you said,
But
Sage.
hang
When
on.
you said
What you're
that
saying,
being an
what,
atheist meant that you're a materialist. Remember what you said, that an atheist
I said
doesn't
that it doesn't
affirm.
mean that you are. I
Right,
said that
right, right,
there's
right.
nothing
But
about atheism that
exactly,
requires that you be a materialist.
exactly.
Absolutely
There's
What do
not,
you
nothing
mean
at all.
and there's
exactly?
nothing,
You got
there's
it
nothing
wrong.
about atheists that lends you to be a moral person.
That's not what he
what?
You
said,
can't
dude. Oh
have
my
your
god, if you
cake.
open your
You
ears
can't
and shut
have
up
your.
for a sec.
No, I
Do you?
understand what he's saying. Atheism doesn't lend you to any position, and to claim otherwise is ridiculous. Atheism is just a rejection of.
You're the one that's
Yeah,
claiming
there.
otherwise,
That's
Yeah,
why
dude.
I'm saying there are atheists who believe in objective morality.
yeah,
Yes, but
correct.
there's
Atheism
also
doesn't mean that you can't believe in it.
atheists that don't believe in objective morality, and there's no difference between the two within atheism, because again,
There's also
atheism.
theists who don't believe in objective morality.
Like,
Correct. There is also
that's.
theists that don't
I
believe in
I
objective
will
morality.
grant you that. I will grant you that. I will grant you that. And that is hypocritical of
So
them.
clearly, our moral system isn't the difference.
Well, the
Yeah.
moral system properly followed, and there's a lot of people right now that don't want to lend themselves to this moral system. But we are seeing a comeback. We are seeing a comeback, and maybe this will lead us to somewhere. Who knows? But
I'm
there is
just
a comeback, especially within young men, more specifically, young men who want to build families, young men who see in their mind the purpose of being a man is to be the provider and the protector of a family, to give himself onto a woman, and to let that love mold him. This is what a lot of men want, man. If you're saying that this is not what men want, then you guys are wild, man.
This is what
It's
some men
wild.
want. It's not
yeah,
what all
this
men
is
want.
Well,
this
it
is
is
what some men
primordial.
want.
It is a primordial thing. It is a primordial thing that
Oh, so
if
now
you don't
you're
want it,
arguing for
if you don't want
biological
it,
things.
if you don't want it, I would say it's to your own detriment.
Wait, so now you're arguing for biological things.
Again,
In your view, yeah.
bro, get
In
your
your
mind around
subjective
this,
view, yeah.
Gilgamore. I'm Catholic. Catholics don't reject science. Catholics
I
don't
never
reject Catholics
said.
don't.
Well, you reject
They,
some science.
I never
well,
said you
hold on.
did.
If you're gonna bring out Galileo, there's a long story behind that, and
Wait, no
you
one
know
said
that's.
anything
Do you
about
think Jesus
Galileo.
had a physical resurrection?
No one
What's
said
that?
anything about Galileo. The problem that arose between you and I in our contentions was that I mentioned that intelligence is from biological processes, but now all of a sudden you're appealing to biological processes when you're talking
I
about men
can.
want this.
I can because of this position, Gilgamore. We are not just biology. That's why I can appeal to biology.
But you just said that men have a primordial sense,
Yes,
which is biologically stemming.
okay, so I'll expand on
So
that.
based on
That primordial inclination can't just be whatever you want it to be. It needs to be formed and it needs to be disciplined based on a transcendent value, a transcendent narrative that to be. It needs to be formed and it needs to be disciplined based on a transcendent value, a transcendent narrative that you need you down into hell because there's nothing. And I'll tell you this from personal experience, bro. When I was an atheist, into hell because there's nothing. And I'll tell you this from personal experience, bro. When I was an atheist, I was so lustful, bro. I was so lustful, man. Relationship after relationship after
yeah, that's a
relationship.
category error.
My wife found me in my atheism. My wife found, and thank God that she found me in my atheism. No,
That
at
sounds
the
like a
end of the
category
day,
error.
at the end of the day, this primordial inclination that all men have this needs to be properly ordered.
Lead you to be more inclined to being lustful.
You cut off there.
I said, how does being an atheist lead you to being more inclined to be lustful?
Because morality comes from you, bro. You
No,
decide what
no.
is right and wrong. There's no standard that you need to hold to, man. There's no
No,
difference
that's not
between
true. We already went
living
over
a
that. Like
virtuous
Sage was
life
saying, dude.
and not living a virtuous life. How do you not
Hey,
understand this?
Maranatha, Sage already pointed out atheism doesn't entail any moral position.
Exactly. That's my
No,
position.
oh my god, dude, that
Neither
doesn't mean.
does
I'm saying it
neither
can be
does
any of the
theism.
moral position. It doesn't mean they're without morals. That's not what we're saying. We're saying it
That's
doesn't
not
entail
what I'm
any
saying.
particular one of the
Yeah, it
moral
is what you're
positions.
saying.
Let
You
me
keep arguing.
clarify for
keep
the.
saying
Hang on,
that.
Let me
dude.
clarify for
Hang
the
on.
fifth time, bro.
We're
For the
gonna
fifth
clarify
time.
it for you. You're
Oh, you're gonna
arguing that,
clarify it for me.
yeah, because you keep saying that atheists have no way of justifying morality.
That's
Neither
not what
do
I
the,
said at all.
but
That's not
but
what I said at all.
atheism.
You keep on misrepresenting me. You keep on misrepresenting me, and I
You
don't
keep
know why you
implying
do it.
that.
Let me clarify this as simply as I can, man, so you can understand it. And I'll even say it slower. Atheist,
Yeah,
there's no
everybody, let him
difference.
misrepresent atheism
Okay.
fairly.
Well,
Yeah, right.
this is just true, right? Or tell me otherwise. And don't just reject it and then start your own little rant. Actually engage with what I'm saying and respond
We're
with something
trying to, but
creative.
you always
Okay,
pipe up and don't
all
let
right,
us
so I'm gonna
finish
lay
the
it out.
point.
I'm gonna lay it out.
You
There's
have
no
not.
difference. There's no difference between living a virtuous life and living a life of pure chasing your desires and chasing your passions wherever they may lead you. There's no difference between the two once you enter atheism. You can go
Nope,
one
you
way or
just
the other.
described the
See,
You
difference.
can go
You
one
just
way or the
described the
other.
you
difference,
just
my
did it
guy.
What's the
again.
difference?
That's
You just did it
ridiculous.
again. See, you keep doing it. And you keep
Okay,
saying that we're straw manning your position, but then you
you
just
are.
clarified it again. You even steel manned your own position.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's what I'm saying. That's a problem for your
Okay.
belief. For your belief to not lend you to virtue, that's a
I
fucking
don't think
problem.
you're the
That's a
one who's
Oh my
problem.
not
gosh.
tracking this
Yeah,
conversation.
you're
No,
We
just
I'm
just
like
tracking
stuck
literally
in your
quite
own
well.
explained
view.
it to you word for
Okay,
word. We said atheism is not an inherently moral position.
and I agree with you.
Neither is theism.
Theism, it absolutely is. What kind of dumb shit is that?
What is
Of course
theism?
it is.
What is
Of
theism?
course it
Oh my
is.
What is
goodness.
theism?
Theism means that you believe that there is a somebody outside of yourself that's the arbiter of morality.
No, that's not what theism is.
That's what
That's a
theism
huge
lends you
Can I
misunderstanding
to.
do
of
a
You're
quick
too
morality.
question?
definitional, bro. You're too
Dude,
definitional
dude,
and close-minded.
theism
You were opening up
literally.
for a little bit, but now you're
No, it
back to the
sounds like
same
you're
crap.
the one who's close-minded. Theism
How
just
am I
means the belief.
close-minded? I'm
Because
agreeing with the position you're laying out.
listen. Don't listen to response. Listen to hear.
Well, I've already agreed with you like a
Theism,
You
dozen times.
misunderstand what he's saying.
theism, just like atheism. Theism means the belief in a god. Atheism means the lack of belief in a god. Where in those things do you see anything related to moral positions?
It lends you to a morality that's objective.
No, you just use the
Here,
concept of God to
if I
guide
if
your
I if I can
morality.
clarify,
This is the problem. You're too
if I can
definitional. You say
clarify for
this
you,
is the
if
definition,
I
and
can
anything that
clarify
hold
for you,
on, hold on.
Marantha.
hold on. You're saying that this
Maranatha,
is the
whatever your name is.
definition, and whatever doesn't define it as I've defined it, I've rejected. And I'm gonna keep on telling you how it's a rejection without actually engaging with what I'm saying. There
We're
is a
trying to
difference.
clarify your
There's a
misunderstanding.
difference between a Christian and an atheist.
Let me make your position more accurate. Your brand of theism lends you to those moral thoughts. Not all brands of theism do.
Tell me
That
a
would be an
theist
accurate
that
thing.
doesn't lend you to an objective standard.
Dude, there are atheists who
Pantheism.
agree to objective
Pantheism
morality.
lends you to it. Hold on. Pantheism absolutely leads you to the objective standard that we're all one. What are you talking about?
What does that have to do with
That
morality?
does,
That's the
not
morality. That's the morality that comes from pantheism.
Yeah,
You
you're
guys
not
are
tracking.
wackos, bro. Like, you
No,
think
you're
that
the one
morality
who's
doesn't
whack.
come from your beliefs?
Dude, you're literally not tracking this conversation.
Yeah, whatever philosophical position that you take, whatever theological position that you take is going to give birth to your morality.
And
And
we're
for you
telling
to
you
say
you're wrong
otherwise,
about that
because I'm
assumption, dude.
definitionally stuck on how you're defining
Okay,
theism,
let me
is
put it
ridiculous.
this way. Let me put it this way for you. The whole time you were in disagreement with me, the other Christian that was on the panel, Justin, was completely in disagreement with you, but yet
Yeah.
you're calling us
Again, I hold to
silly?
the Catholic position. I don't hold to Protestant theology. Protestant theology is much more cruel with y'all. Much more cruel with y'all. That's why you find a lot of disagreement within atheism and Protestant theology. Catholics, you know how many atheists go turn to Catholicism? Because it actually tries to merge your understanding with the fullness of what you're trying to understand.
Oh, but you said it
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
change, right? You said it's
that
unchanging,
that's a
objective.
fucking hasty generalization
That's the
fallacy if I've
truth.
ever heard one.
The truth. That's
That's
what
not
all
a
the
truth.
atheists, including myself, will tell you
That's
that
not a
have
truth.
entered the
That
church.
is literally a
Hey, bro.
logical flaw in an argument.
Just because you define what's logically flawed by the way that you define certain presuppositions doesn't mean that what I'm saying doesn't have any
Holy
truth.
shit, dude. Did you just say that? Did you
No,
literally just say that?
because you're no more than what your logic gives you, and that's sad, bro. That's sad. At the end of the day, you are more than even logic.
Dude, every position that you hold, moral wise, is all logical positions.
Now, no, there are certain experiences that defy logic. You
Oh,
want to know
okay,
the
cool.
most you want to know the most crazy experience that defies logic? Look at all the
Let's
stupid
do
stuff.
it this way.
Look at all the stupid stuff people do in the name of
Oh,
love.
okay, let's do
Look
it
at
this
that.
way. God is your objective standard of morality, correct?
Look at all the stupid stuff people do in the name of God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
is your objective standard of morality, right?
Not understanding who God
Oh,
is.
hang on. Let's do this. Let's do this. Since you want to do this, God is your objective standard of morality, correct?
Yep.
Okay, how do you determine that something is good and bad?
By the standard that Christ has laid down.
Okay, how do you define good?
I don't define good. He defines good.
Okay, so what is good in your worldview?
To be like Christ. Okay, I'll clarify. I'll because I know you're gonna reject esoteric language, right? So I'm gonna put in a secular, kind of sentence. All right. So what I hold most dear is to live a life that's a self-sacrifice for others in the name of love.
Okay, how do you still determine what's good? That didn't answer the question.
What I determined was good is, like we were talking about earlier, grounding it in the figure of Christ.
Yeah, so you're still not defining what good is.
Yes, I am.
Like,
I'm
when
telling
you
you
see
what good
somebody
is.
do an action,
Hold on.
how do
Gilgamore,
you
how am I
decide
not defining what good is? I am defining.
Yeah.
I'm not defining it
You're not.
definitionally, but I'm defining it in a figure. I'm defining it in the figure of Jesus Christ.
So basically, what you're saying is, when I ask you, what do you think? What do you define as good? You're
Jesus
telling me
Christ.
that something is good because something is good. That
No,
doesn't explain
Jesus.
it.
No, something is good. See, you keep on misrepresenting me, bro. And I don't know if this is like a, I don't know if this is dishonesty or just ignorance.
Drop the meta and condescension. Just make your point.
Well, something is good because Christ says it's good.
Oh, okay. So then basically, good is good because God
Divine
is God.
command
So
theory?
Because Christ is good. I know what you're trying to say, that good is good.
No, hang on.
That good defines good, but that's not true because Christ is completely different. Christ is a figure.
Yeah,
and it's
you're
a
basically
historical
saying
figure.
that something is good because God is God. That just makes
No, 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 no.
morality
I'm saying,
arbitrary. Or sorry, that
okay,
just makes good arbitrary.
something is good because Christ, who is a historical figure, a historical person who had an actual life, a ministry, a death, and a resurrection, all that stuff. That's how I'm defining good.
Yeah, so Christ is God, so God is God. That's basically what your good is. So it
God,
just makes good
Christ is
arbitrary.
Okay.
different, but here's the
Okay.
difference. Christ,
Wait,
again,
wait, wait.
Christ is
Hold
the
on.
figure. Christ
Uh,
is the figure and a historical figure. This is the difference.
okay.
Hold on.
I'm getting tired now, and low battery. So,
Yeah, that's
thank you for
fine.
coming over.
Just plug your phone in, leave it on, and then go to sleep, man. We'll hook it up.
Oh
Just
yeah,
kidding.
do that. Do that. That's fine.
Uh,
This is a good conversation, man. I like talking to atheists, like I said, man. And I
I'd rather,
understand what you're saying, but it's just different, man.
I'd rather,
Christianity is different.
I'd rather just end it, to be honest. Alright, thanks for coming over,
I
and
was just teasing you anyway.
I know. Alright, see you guys.
Have a good night.